Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to the VCO ProSim Series with myself, Ben Constanduris. Fantastic to have you along for round 6 of this championship, which features some of the very best real-world drivers going alongside in partnership with the very best from the sim racing world in iRacing. We've had some epic racing across the globe in our Dallara F3 cars, and of course enjoyed the fun races as well immensely. Here is what happened in last round. It was a couple of weeks ago, so you may need remembering that it was Ayachan Guven and Josh Rogers who took the victory at Snetterton in their Formula 3 car, a track that neither had really driven on before, but they certainly enjoyed their time at Snetterton. And the championship standings as they are after 6 rounds of this championship. Maximilian Beneke leads by just 3 points ahead of Sebastian Job, who is 3 points ahead of Joshua Rogers. Sindre Sintas lies 4th, but some way off the pace. Martin Kroenke, the name, in 5th position. But really for the championship, as we get closer and closer to the end, it's those two. The Esports Racers top 5, Josh Rogers, Graham Carroll and Sebastian Job, with Felix Ludding very much in contention in 4th position and Mac Backham in 5th. This is for the championship. The pro drivers, Ayachan Guven and Lauren Heinrich, share the lead with Raul Hyman in 3rd position, just a few points ahead of Sage Karen. Philip Eng 5th, but missed last round due to being at the Daytona 24 hours. In fact, many drivers missed the race thanks to their commitments in Daytona, but they're all back with us now, meaning we've got a fantastic grid for you. Felix McEwen, we'll speak a little bit about that later, joins Jimmy Broadbent in the number 1 machine, and look further across, we've got Grosjean and Petitjean back together in the number 8 car. Timo Glock joins us again with James Saunders in the 10 car. Louis Delatraz is back, another big name. Rudy Van Buren with Ollie Pakala. How will they do in the 13? Daniel Rowbottom, Philip Eng joins Sebastian Job again in the 22. Will Stevens is here. Daniel Yucandela makes his debut in the 23 car. Martin Tomczek, another real-world name, partners with Mark Wagner. We've got Job van Uiterud and Cooper Webster. That should not be another fast car to watch out for. A new teammate for Maximilian Beneke, the championship leader. The 31 car has Bent Viscal in it after Lorenzo Colombo has driven that car for the last couple of rounds, as has obviously Max Verstappen in the first round. Dennis Lind is back in the 49 machine alongside Rick Yonk. We've seen great progress from Mike Epps and Pablo Lopez over the last couple of weekends. Bobby Thompson makes his debut in the 55 machine. Sophia Flörsch represents the ladies in the 77. Watch out for Phil Dennis and Niels Koch in the 89. Very fast at Snetterton as well. And on our final page, Matt Campbell and Jeremy Bitterloop have starred in some rounds and not in others so much. Daniel Dil Pereira continues with Jürgen Franke. And we also have Frederick Vervies and Matthias Besch in the 94 car, Ayachan Guven and Joshua Rogers in the championship leading 92. We have points for the top 30 position and prizes. A lot of these drivers here for the prize money, $1,000 for the win. A total prize pot each round of $5,000 and some real proper hardware to get your hands on as well. Well, joining us this evening is Somil, who has joined us since the very first round, and my co-commentator this evening will be the man who is the VCO Simi Award winner for 2020, and that's Lewis McGlade. Lewis, great to have you back again. Very excited to see more real-world drivers from the top echelons joining a mixture of sim racing champions.
Yeah, just 3 rounds to go in the championship as well. It's poised for a great finale in all 3 of the categories, be it the pro drivers and the esports drivers, and of course in the fun series as well. I am sure we're in for quite a ride until the end of the season.
And Somel, you are looking forward to our fun race first of all this evening. An interesting combination of car and track.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. The old Riley has been quite a handful of a car. That's what many people have said. And driving it around Sebring, well, that's one thing. But racing it against the best drivers in the world, I think that's going to be something really fun to watch out for today.
Not an easy car to drive, the Riley, and not an easy track to drive around Sebring, the bumps of Florida. We're going there now for qualifying. Here we are then, into qualifying. We've got about 10 minutes of qualifying, an open session. And looks like they're all out in one pack, Lewis. Is this a good or a bad thing? It's a tricky old circuit to be followed up the cars.
I can't tell you if there's a good or a bad thing. It's a track you can pick up a bit of slipstream off of the car ahead. You know, you've got some long straights, particularly the one into Sunset Bend, into the final corner of the track. But I don't know. I'm still standing by my guns that I like the idea of some clean air, especially in a car that's as tricky to drive as these. It's fantastic to see them back out on circuit, though. It's been such a long time since we've seen them, and already some incidents in the background.
Yeah, so this is our fun race, and we have a 10-minute qualifying session. Will Stevens has looped it. I think he just kept it out the barrier. They are not allowed to press escape and go back to the pits. If they do that, they cannot go back out onto the circuit, so they need to keep it clean. And this was Will just looping it round a second ago, Lewis.
Yeah, I think Le Mans corner and just running it a little bit too far wide onto just a little bit on the grass as the rear end was stepping out, and around he goes. Easy mistake to make, but you are right, did not hit the wall, did not reverse into the traffic as well, so no problems, keeping going. I'm pretty sure his tyres might be all right as well, so hopefully things are good for him. Ian Changuven, after taking the win last time in the F3, that was their third victory of the season. They're such a strong team, him and Josh Rogers. Now we get to see how he does by himself in such an oddity of a car.
Great to see some new graphics from our partner Race Spot for this particular round, and we ride on board with Ian Changuven, who has the timer on for probably getting the tyres and everything up to temperature is why they were all out in a big group, because they just need to get out onto circuit as soon as possible. And we may see the times tumble as we go through this session lap after lap. Just a reminder, these are our real world drivers. This is their, let's do the math, third time that they have raced in the fun race. Maximilian Beneke leads the championship in the fun race because basically the sim racing drivers have already had 3 races, whereas the real world pros have only had 2.
Yeah, I think the last time that when the pro drivers were driving, it's a bit of a moment there for Ian Changuven heading into the penultimate corner. Prior to it, the top 5 had only one pro driver in, and that was Paynen, who was currently was in 3rd position and a fair way off. But after Indianapolis, that was a crazy round. It's thrown some of the pro drivers that maybe weren't at the front of the championship to the front, and some that were at the front that you'd expect to be there a little bit further back. So basically what I'm saying is that this is an ultimate reset button after quite a bizarre Indy round.
Well, we're nearly all the way into the session, or halfway into the session. We're only just getting competitive lap times in, so a long lap, nearly 2 minutes in the Israelis, and that is why they all desperately try to get out onto circuit, because they don't really have very much time to get themselves a clear and competitive lap time. Gustav Grinbergis, in fact, deciding to do a bit of overtaking to get himself some clear air. Lauren Heinrich leads by 0.7 of a second over Guven, although Denny's comes in and fills that hole now 4/10 back. And then Verone Stevens in 5th position, and Kroos, then Delatraz in 7th right now.
That was a great lap time from Heinrich at the start, 57.6. Obviously plenty of time left in the session for him to cut that lap time down. Seeing a lot of people, a bit of traffic there as fighting their way through with Grimbergas at the hairpin. Not ideal to be picking up some traffic on the exit there. Might have delayed him just a little bit, or might be all right. Dennis, though, must be said, was really impressive in qualifying at Silverstone, and actually just in pace in general. did really, really good. Where did they finish in the race in the end? Wasn't it second? Yeah, it was. Second indeed at the F3 race just a few weeks ago. So definitely one to keep an eye on over the next sort of bit of this race.
Yeah, we're watching Phil Dennis.
Indeed we are. Trying to see where he's going to go on to onto the timesheet, see if he can improve his time. He's currently in second position and looking for an improvement. Needs to find about 4/10 before he moves up the grid and try and fight for pole position.
Lauren Heinrich, of course, is about to do a faster lap time, which will move the bar even further away from him. So Heinrich's done a 57.248, and Sage Karam now fills that hole. But we're still waiting for Phil to complete his lap time, and of course he's in traffic. But I wonder whether he's picked up any kind of a slipstream to help himself. Drops to 4th position, comes across the line now, and that wasn't an improvement, in fact.
No, he's got Will Tregertha in tow as well. Frederick Vervish a little bit behind this, as is Sophia Flörsch, but still putting in some decent lap times. Sage Karam's time on the board's pretty tasty, but I don't... It's such an impressive lap time from Lauren Heinrich that trying to find that extra bit of time. 3 minutes, you've got the time and space on track, but still.
Yeah, I suppose they can still get another 2 laps. And we follow Sage Karam into the second half of the lap then. Second position, half a second though. No one can really touch Lauren Heinrich. And remember, Lauren Heinrich was the guy who did the same thing in the race where we had the super stocks around Road America, was it?
Road Atlanta.
Yeah, I always get them mixed up. But he has a really good knack of just adapting to these different cars that you wouldn't usually race in iRacing, and that's kind of the idea of this fun race. To use stuff that doesn't really appear. We saw the Lotus 79. We saw the Indianapolis Circular Race, which was really, really cool. We saw the super late model stock things.
It's been a wild mix, isn't it? And now we're here with the Riley, which is a car that we've not seen for ages. Here's Jimmy Broadbent. He's got a bit of an interesting teammate this time in the 00 car. Jimmy was saying some things in the briefing prior to this that he... Obviously, with some of the stuff that we've seen esports-wise, let's go with that, and how we need to shut that stuff down, and we just need to come in and have a bit of fun here. Great time from Denez, though. Goes to second, and less than a 10th off Heinrich.
Yeah, so Jimmy Broadbent, then. He has a teammate called Phoenix McEwen. Phoenix actually is driving in this race as well, and he's in the number 40 car for this race. If you haven't ever come across Phoenix McEwen, then have a look on his Instagram page. Google Felix McEwen. You can also chat to Somil about Phoenix McEwen on our YouTube chat. He'll be bringing up some stuff during each of the races. But Phoenix is very interesting because he doesn't actually exist in the real world. He's as real as iRacing itself, I suppose.
No, and so in that sense, this is a real race for him. Unlike us coming along to invade the sim world, that this is his now. So we get to race someone. He's in this race. I think 23rd at the moment is qualified. So they both get to race in this one. He is indeed 23rd at the moment in the number 40. I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on the progress of McEwen and, of course, McEwen and Broadbent across the evening to see how that will play out. Session's done, though, and so we're coming to the final lap times for everyone to complete. Alexei Nesov, our focus at the moment. Heinrich on that 57.248 at the top. Does get beat by Danny Junkadea. Nice one.
Yeah, so Danny Junkadea by a 10th and a half. Lauren Heinrich has already gone across the line, so taking the checkered flag. We've got plenty of cars that can still trump him, include Phil Dennis, who sits in 3rd position, but from nowhere, really, Untitled manages to do it. Dennis goes up into 2nd position to join him on the front row of the grid. Heinrich gets bumped down to 3rd, Karam 4th, and we've still got plenty of improvements going on further down the field. What of people like Philip Eng? Where is he's just popped up actually, hasn't he? Into 7th position. So
Eng out, yeah.
Yeah, so but that was his only lap really. We've got a couple of guys who didn't manage to do any laps. So Job van Buren, Jens Klingman, Richard Wagner, Miguel Molina, Nick Yellerly. Yellerly did 3 laps but didn't get a clean lap in because, of course, Lewis, you have lots of track issues around Sebring where it's very easy to have a lap disallowed.
Particularly, yeah, there's places like Le Mans Corner, you've got places at the hairpin. If you pick up, for sim races, we all kind of know what it is, you pick up a 1X, a track excursion, McEwen up to 15th, I think, there, and all that. And Jimmy Broadbent, I think that was moving up around 26th place. Yeah, you pick up a 1X, it cancels your lap time, basically, so you need to do it again. And picking those 1Xs up, or even a 0X, a little bit of contact on the wall on the final corner, that's enough to also cancel your lap. So they need to be perfect on the lap. And in a car that's so hard to drive, it does make sense that we haven't seen everyone complete their lap time. I'm just going to throw someone under the bus a little bit. Rudy Van Buren, only 13th place. Unacceptable. He's supposed to be very good at this thing. I like Rudy, though. He's a good boy.
It's not his platform, he would say, isn't it? He's a very much an R Factor 2 kind of expert and hasn't had a huge amount of experience in iRacing. Right, so give us 1 second and we'll be going racing, I think, with the fun. We've got all the cars now. Oh, we haven't got all the cars across the line. Miguel Molina is still coming around the last corner. He's another of those drivers that hasn't actually set a lap time. And presumably, he wasn't able to do on that lap because he's gone into the pits. So, oh well. Right. So, we will probably have a look at the grid. Brand new graphics, as I say, for this race. So here it is. Daniel Kudela beside Phil Dennis. Lauren Heinrich in 3rd beside Sage Karam in 4th. Dylan Pereira, 5th position, Porsche Supercup driver. Ayachan Guven, his Porsche Supercup contemporary, 6th only, 0.7 back. So there was definitely a sweet spot for those cars. And that is quite a big difference from 1st to 6th position. In 7th, Philip Eng on that last lap ahead of Mike Epps. Then Nicholas Verona, who was fast early on but didn't make the best of his tyres. Maris Zugin, 10th. Danny Cross, then Matt Campbell, only 12th position. The master of Bathurst, if you remember, if you can cast your mind back to 2020. Him and Jeremy Buchloop had a really good run at Bathurst. Then Rudy Van Buren, 13th. Will Tregar, 14th. Phoenix McEwen, our virtual racer, in 15th position. Bradley Philpott, 16th. Imagine all these guys being beaten by a guy who doesn't exist. Daniel Morad, Tim Heinemann in 18th position. I'm being unfair to Phoenix. He'll be very insulted by being called imaginary. He's not imaginary, he's virtual. Dennis Lind, 19th. Louis Delatraz, only 20th. Romain Grosjean, only 21st. Probably not a track that he's been to. Then Bobby Thompson, 23rd. Alex Nesov, only 24th. We do see him doing much better in the F3 car than in these fun races. Will Stevens, 25th. Jimmy Broadbent, 26th. Matthias Besch, then Timo Crawford. Elias Sepane, and only 30th. We've seen great stuff from him also, I suppose, in the Formula 3 car, but that will be disappointing from the Finnish driver down in 30th position. Gustav Grimbergers, then Sophia Flörsch, Martin Chomchek, Raul Hyman, Vitalo Garcia, Raymond Pinheiro, And those that really didn't set a lap time, Nick Yellerly and Frederick Verveech at the tail of the field. And we are racing! Wow, it didn't give us very much time to prepare for that one. And we head down to a very, very difficult first corner here at Sebring. Looks like it'll be going 3 wide through turn 1. It just about plays out and is okay. Everyone seems to have got through that shot. Didn't see if anyone was left in the barriers at turn 1. Usually there is somebody, and it is very, very tricky to get everybody through these corners. So narrow is the infield section at Sebring, Lewis.
Yeah, we were looking at Dylan Pereira there in the middle of the pack as at the front end of the field, Lauren Heinrich has been able to make a bit of a breakaway. Phil Dennis, though, is under a fair amount of pressure from Danny Junkadea as well. There's going to be some side-by-side behind that as everyone's trying to find their way through the hairpin. The number 12 car, Ryan Changuven, in the middle of all of that, trying to fight his way past Phil Eng as well. Whoa, pretty manic stuff into the hairpin.
Yeah, still trying to sort each other out, still trying to find the right place to place their cars. Of course, when we go to the back straight, it's going to be all about the slipstream. These cars designed really to go around Daytona for the 24-hour race back in the day, and have a kind of a very weird design, quite flat at the front, punching quite a hole in the air, not like the LMP cars that you see today that are much more slick. That windscreen specifically very wide to give the driver visibility, but does provide a brick in the air, I suppose, is the way to put it.
It does push quite a bit of air out of the way. It is a bit of a, as the cool kids would say, a chonky boy. It's a bit big. It does punch a hole, and it is good for slipstream, which you can't actually say for Sage Karam, because he's not close enough to Phil Dennis to actually pull anything back down into. Must say that Danny Junkadea did not have a good start from the front row, has dropped down into 4th place in this pack that we're sort of looking at. It's not gone well for our pole sitter, but it is a long race. He's under an awful lot of pressure from Philip Eng on his return to the series. This is looking a little bit further back from that.
Yeah, so Eng started in 7th position, up to 5th spot. Good effort. He probably hasn't had much chance to put in too much practice, having been in Daytona for, what was it, about 10 days they had to spend in Daytona. As we now switch our attention a bit further down, Daniel Morad was another guy stuck in Daytona for a while. A false positive he got, even though he got COVID in January. He apparently got COVID again in February, and he's very, very squirrely. Very, very loose, as he's got Rudy Van Buren giving him pressure. Van Buren goes to the outside line, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to find a way all the way around the outside. And there's really kind of stacking up into that corner. No space, and actually Van Buren may lose a position to Danny Kroos as well.
Mike Epps and Ian Changuven just had contact into the hairpin. I did notice it. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. We saw a lot of smoke coming into it. There's massive contact in the background, though, as people are being sent left, right, and centre at the hairpin. Oh dear, it's an easy place for contact. As I said, we're seeing it a bit further up the order. Let's take a look at this replay and see what we've got on screen. This is the one a bit further back.
Alex Alcaraz then coming down into the braking zone. I think we will actually want to look a bit further back, because it looks a lot hotter and a lot tighter between the two cars just behind Alex. Alex into the braking zone, and oh, he just lost it on his own. Cute. Oh, and then he got collected by the guys that were fighting over each other.
That's Timo Glock, I think, that gave me a little bit of a smack on the exit of the corner. Overdid it himself for good measure. Oh, easily done.
Lewis, you missed a rhyming slang there. Timo Glock gave him a knock. Easy win that you missed.
I would have got told off for doing it, though. That's the problem. Puns and rhyming slang. You get told off. Oh, Ed, obviously.
Oh yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, the master in charge. So he won't understand, he's German, it's fine. 3 wide just ahead of the battle for 13th position. We switch back to our racing. Rudy Van Buren getting involved. I think Rudy's actually in that orange car that goes into the very, very inside line. Oh, that's a brave move from Rudy Van Buren. Daniel Morad is still involved in that, and Van Buren has gone ahead of Mike Epps for 1. I think he's done Morad as well. The 38 car is Daniel Morad, so he stays ahead. Oh, that's a shame, because Rudy Van Buren is always orange because he's Dutch. But he's not in the orange car.
I was going to say that. I was like, yeah, surely it would be, but no, blue and green. Look out for Rudy Van Buren marching his way back up the order in 11th position at the moment. That was a very aggressive move from Danny Morad into T1, and Mike Epps is being muscled down the order. Now he's got Will Tregertha on the inside of him going into the hairpin, and Epps is just going to be able to hang on. Did so well last time out in the F3 races at Snetterton, ended up I think 4th at the end of the race. Did such a good job, but unfortunately here the Riley in race wise. Oh, who's that? Who's round? That was
Nicholas
Verone.
Verone. Yeah, so he has spun himself out of definitely a top 10. He had a good qualifying, didn't he? He was in the top 10 for qualifying. He's on the outside line here. Oh, we got helped around. Got helped around by somebody there, and that's a bit of a shame. Lots of we do have real world race control here, and classic one just trying to do the switchback, which means you've got a lower mid corner speed, and got taken out by the car who was more driving the conventional racing line.
Zion Shanguven, that's the second bit of contact I've seen. I saw contact between Guven and Epps as well a little bit earlier on in this, so a couple of issues heading the way of Zion Shanguven, who's now slowing down on the back stretch as well, potentially to return positions. This is focusing a little bit further up the order to our race lead, as Lauren Heinrich is leading, but not by much, as you can tell. Into turn 1, the number 36 of Phil Dennis is right a part of this, pulled 3.6 seconds on Philip Eng and Danny Juncker in behind, not having the race pace it seems. Still plenty of time on the clock though.
Phil Dennis has done a really great job since entering the VCO ProSim Series at the start of the year, really being at the sharp end and really starring, and now putting Lauren Heinrich under a huge amount of pressure. If Heinrich wins this, he'll put himself in great contention for the Fun Race Championship. It's combined with the Real World, but this is their third race for the Real World drivers. So 3 races for the sim drivers, 2 only for the Real World up until the end of this run. But if Heinrich wins this, he would have won 2 out of the 3, and that will put him right at the sharp end of that championship. Now, let's take our attention quickly away from what we're seeing on track and have a chat into the Coanda household, where we have Tommy Usgaard with us this evening. How are you, Tommy?
Hey, I'm all good, thank you.
So how has preparations been for the Nürburgring track? It did look as though you were going to be potentially last minute moved to Monza, but Nürburgring prevailed. Is it a place that you enjoy?
Yeah, I'm quite thankful for that. I think Nürburgring is a good track. I've had some ups and downs races there, so some good, some bad, so hopefully I can add another good one to my result on that track today. I think passing will be very difficult, so qualifying will be crucial.
And how have you enjoyed racing alongside these real world races and the opportunity for you guys as Coanda to have a bit of an evening in your some sessions all together and just enjoy as well?
I think it's been a lot of fun, mainly. It's been some good racing, very close races, and just a lot of fun, enjoying it, being out there, and mixing up the group dynamic a little bit as well, you know, having these real drive drivers join us. So it's been a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it a lot, so yeah.
And how have you been able to work with Gustav a little bit to perhaps improve him? Has there been many shared sessions throughout the week?
To be honest, not as many as we both would have hoped for. So we've not had that much preparation for this race, so it's been a bit tough. But hopefully we can have a good one and get a good result. We've had been a little bit unlucky with the last races, so we need a good result this time, and hopefully we can do a little bit more prep for the coming races.
Awesome, Tommy. Thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with your championship race this afternoon.
Thanks, guys.
I don't know why I said the afternoon. It's definitely very much the evening in Europe. This has been an entertaining battle, though, Lewis.
Oh, it's been huge. We saw a little bit of side-by-side between ex-BTCC drivers Bobby Thompson and Mike Epps, and muscling their way up the order is Mike Epps trying to move his way back up. He's now got Dennis Lind in tow, not too far behind. Our eyes are focused, I believe, on Bobby Thompson. Certainly is in that quite distinctive red and yellow car joining the series, and it's good to see him. Definitely fitting in. Speaking of other British touring car drivers as well, Daniel Robarn, who is on the grid, I believe, today, recently a new baby daughter. So congratulations to them. don't know exactly when, but the time frame from what I saw in the message was it looked like it was today, although that seems unlikely.
Yeah, that's a really commitment to the racing cause if he had a baby today and decided to still jump into the Pro Sim series. But either way, hopefully he's be able to focus purely on his racing and not have too many screaming childs in the background. We've lost, by the way, Louis Delatraz, Timo Glock, Will Stevens, Nick Yellerly and Jens Klingman. They have all retired out the race, and it looks as though Matt Campbell is joining them as well. So some big names already out of this race. Mainly, though, these cars look like they are handling pretty well and enjoyable to drive despite the bumpy conditions at Sebring.
Yeah, they seem a bit tanky. Let's go with tanky. They can certainly take a bit of contact, and I think it's to the nature of them being quite large, and with them being fairly tricky to drive in certain aspects, that it sort of opens you up to almost measuring it up properly rather than just going, oh, I'll just throw it in from this far back. And some drivers have really moved their way up the order courtesy of it and the consistency. Rudy Van Buren up to 7th place after what I said was a poor qualifying, so I'm certainly eating my words now.
There's Nicholas Veroni on board with him way back after qualifying well but having that spin. Let's go over to Sumil then, who's been monitoring our chat, and if you want to get in touch with us, make sure you do chat on our YouTube channel and you can give Sumil some information or indeed ask questions. We are here for all of those services, as is he. Sumil, what the chat saying?
So Ben, apart from the general intrigue about where Jimmy Broadbent is, there's also lots of curiosity about what happened to Einchan Guven as we see this lovely battle on the screen right now. Side by side they go, and Veroni almost trying to get an edge on something, and they make contact. Wow, this is good stuff, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. Way off the track. Surely that's going to be a penalty. Still some elbowing. Very ready. You see the elbowing like this actually work out, but that's unfortunate, but entertaining nonetheless. So yeah, Philip, Jimmy Broadbent, where is he? Surely you just go onto his YouTube channel and watch, don't you?
Oh my goodness.
Oh. Oh well, that ended in tears, didn't it?
It was always going to, isn't it?
Sorry, Sumil. Jimmy Broadbent, what's going on with him?
It's been a decent race from Jimmy Broadbent so far. He's climbed up all the way to P33, but there have been a few. I mean, let's say it's been assisted by a few crashes here and there. So he's had somewhat of a decent start. Not sure if it was the cleanest in the world, but there's also curiosity about what happened to Einchan Guven. He's fallen all the way back in the order to P number 26. And there's also a great deal of curiosity about the car, because the Riley prototype hasn't been seen in competition, Ben, for a long time in real-world motorsport. And the backstory is very interesting. The American endurance racing organizational bodies, they just wanted a closed cockpit Le Mans race car that was smaller and cheaper. And definitely built like a tank, because it's surviving incidences like that one.
Mikettes there involved. That's for, well, it's still for 15th position, so there's still points available, and now Phoenix McEwen's got himself up into 15th position. Any questions on Phoenix on our chat?
Oh yes, everyone's very interested in Phoenix, knowing about what he is. Is he a virtual program? Is it a real person piloting a virtual drive or something like that? There's all a little bit of curiosity going on behind that, and quite frankly, I'm in the same boat. I will know more as things come, but for now, it seems like a very intriguing prospect that's got quite a few people talking in the chat.
It's a
And
mystery
news coming
chat.
in.
Oh, and round goes with that Einchan Guven being unceremoniously removed. No, Ellis Sepainen, same livery, different car, but he was very much helped off the track there.
And the interesting thing is, Ben. Oh. Yikes.
Go on, Samil.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the same thing apparently happened to Jimmy Broadbent on the very first lap. He got, in the words of Mike Lott from the chat, he got murdered at the start.
Oh dear. Oh well. This is only for fun. So we've still got the proper race to come, and actually I think Jimmy's got a good chance with Phoenix alongside him. Phoenix having a pretty strong run of things in 15th position right now. We switch our attention though to Danny Yukundela, who is now just a couple of tenths behind Philippe Eng in 3rd position, and behind he's got Sage Karam. So this is the battle for 3rd. They are 5 seconds to the bad, I suppose, of Heinrich and Dennis at the front of the field. Just 0.3 of a second separate those two. So with 5 minutes remaining, lots of questions still to be answered. Dylan Pereira actually doing a good job in 6th spot. And look at that, Rudy Van Buren slowly but surely making his way up through the field. Now in 7th, with Zug 8th, Morad 9th, Tregartha in 10th position. So again, a bit of a shame to see some of our real-world stars, if you like, not really featuring in this second race. I mentioned, by the way, that Sophia Flörsch was our only female. Am I right in that, or is the... No, I think she is our only female tonight, isn't she?
I believe so.
Because we have seen Bajtskevisa involved in the championship, but she's not here tonight. So Sophia, unfortunately, now a retiree, along with Elias Sepanen, we saw. Matt Campbell, Miguel Molina and Louis Delatraz. Timo Glock has exited totally. Will Stevens is also out. Yellerly and Jens Klingman, as we turn our attention to this battle for 3rd position at the head of the field, but then we've got a good battle behind. There's lots of groups of cars now.
Seems quite difficult to overtake, doesn't it? Let's see if Danny Nkadea can prove me wrong on that one. Switches back to the inside for turn 1, but does not make the pass. The reason I say that is because we're seeing all of these trains. Oh, look at this cutback, though, from Sage Karam. He's going to have it done on the exit of T1 into 2 and 3. Oh, nice move there. There you go, proving me completely wrong. And Nkadea going for the cut back, but not able to make anything stick, I don't think. No, he is not. Oh, yes, he is. I am not very good at this, Ben. They are proving me wrong left, right, and centre.
Classic move from Sage Karam, very much knowing how to make a move stick here at Sebring. One of those ones that you kind of start about 3 corners before you finish it and getting it done. And Danny Ukindele kind of being caught out by his lack of experience probably around Sebring, and they've both, in doing that, in having that little side-by-side moment in battle, allowed Philip Eng some breathing space. So Eng now secures himself in 3rd position. Remember, Eng will be teammates with Sebastian Job in the championship race a bit later on, and that will certainly be a force to be reckoned with. Graham Carroll will be alongside Lauren Heinrich, so again a very, very strong pairing in the number 10 machine. And Phil Dennis, well, I think, you know, he starred in his stint, but that car ended up quite far back. Niels Koch in the 89 alongside him. I don't know whether that's a change from last round. Who was his teammate last round? Let's have a quick look.
Would really pass me on my memory. I'm not that good with memory. I like stats.
Useful.
I can read paper, but actual memory, terrible. God awful.
Yeah, so Dennis was with Marceno, and you remember there was a mistake from Marceno in one of the last corners, and they were leading the race. So now Dennis has moved to be with Niels Koch, and actually I think they're in a different car completely to either of them have driven. So that'll be quite an interesting pairing for the main race, the championship race, coming up a bit later on. On board with Gianni Ukindele, new camera angle from us as well at Race Spot, and a kind of a visor cam, if you like, giving you an opportunity to feel a little bit more as to how it might feel inside the cockpit, or if you were wearing VR goggles.
Arjuna Kakapoti, who's doing some of the cameras as well with Hugo Luis, told me about this car, and it's not been used in such a long time. The camera pack for this car, when we first started using it, was from 2015. So it's really not being used, and it's quite a throwback. I wonder if there are any drivers on either grid, probably a couple, that raced it. Cronker definitely did. That actually raced it properly when this car was actually being used on the service.
Well, it would have been used in the Daytona 24 Hours, probably not that long ago. Probably 2 or 3 Daytona 24 Hours ago, they would have still had this car in service.
No, because the C7 Daytona prototype was out, and they only really used that as far as memory goes, and that's been out since 2015, 2016 maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're totally correct. I was putting that car in its place. So yeah. Either way, it's as you can see from the inside view, it is a little bit parochial, but that's what we like here on the Fun Race. We like to throw cars and tracks at you that you may not have experienced or seen before, and certainly what these guys have not experienced. It's going to be Interesting to see in the last 2 rounds where VCO go with the fun race. 15 seconds remaining, so this will be last lap for Lauren Heinrich and Phil Dennis. If Dennis wants to do anything, now is the time. You don't get the feeling he's quite got the legs and quite close enough to make a move unless he really throws it down the inside. The question is, what about that back marker or 2 in front of them? Will they catch them, and will that be an influence?
It's Roman Grosjean 3 seconds ahead is the first of those back markers that they're closing. They are closing in pretty fast. I don't think it's going to be enough. I think these two should be able to get to the line just in their own little battle. As to where there's going to be a move, it is going to have to be a send for Dennis. Potentially into Sunset, into the final corner, unless he's going to try and throw something. He's close enough to do something. It's just about picking the right opportunity, and at this point in the race, they're running out.
Oh, yeah, but I think they're going to be very close to these back markers, and Roman Grosjean has Job and Eng really close to him, so those two very much focused on each other. I can tell you, Untitled got a back ahead of Sage Karam as well. There is the gap between our last 2 remaining cars, 30th and 31st, and our first 2 cars, and I tell you what, it could well be Sunset where these guys end up catching them, and that will be a disaster for Heinrich. He'll have to be very, very clever as where he places his car into the last corner. Down one final straight, Roman Grosjean circling around the rear end of Job Van Eng to try and find a way through. They may not quite catch, actually. It's going to be very, very close. Grosjean and Van Eng will get themselves a last lap. But into the final corner, Dennis is not close enough. He goes a much, much tighter line, though. Tries to cover less distance. Mid-corner is where the apex is, but he'll push Dennis a little bit wider. He's still very close, but not quite close enough. Lauren Heinrich has done it from lights to flag. His second fun race victory ahead of Phil Dennis. And over the line, further back, Sage Karam, very, very close. What happened to Eng? Yeah, Eng in 3rd position. Untitled and Karam. I'm not quite sure what's going on with our leaderboard on the left-hand side. Somebody else goes flying. Was that Bobby Thompson, I think, perhaps? And, of course, the leaderboard is updating in real time. That's why it's going mental on our left-hand side. But Heinrich, Dennis, Eng, Untitled, Karam. Then looks like Rudy Van Buren picked up that 6th position in the end. So that is promising news. As we look further back, 3 wide, Matthias Betch getting absolutely mugged here. Raul Hyman, who should be further up, is involved in that, I think. And Vitolo Garcia, they come across the line. And Betch, I think, takes it ahead of Garcia and Hyman. We'll have confirmation in a second of the result.
I think, just going to throw it out there, by the way, that red car that was being thrown up in the air was Dylan Pereira. Was very, very close with Danny Morad coming across the line. There was contact between the two. Bit of a crash, though.
So Heinrich wins, Dennis in 2nd, Eng 3rd, Untitled 4th, Karam, then Van Buren, Dylan Pereira and Danny Morad, Marith Zug and Will Tregertha round out the top 10. Big gaps, though, over just 11 laps. Will Tregertha 18 seconds back. Krus, then Alex Nessov, Bobby Thompson in 13th, Mikey Epps in 14th. So BTCC represent there ahead of Phoenix McEwen, then Nicholas Verone, Raul Hyman, Dennis Lind, Gustav Grimbergers and Tim Heinemann in 20th position. 43 seconds back. Big gaps. Vitolo Garcia, Bradley Philpott, Matthias Betch, Ayachan Guven, just a 10th behind Betch in the end. So that's what we were seeing come across the line with Tomczyk involved too. Then it was Frederick Ravish, Raymond Pinheiro, Richard Wagner, Jimmy Broadbent 29th. Van Uitert held off Roman Grosjean for the cars who came across the line in the last lap. Then Crawford, Alcaraz, Sepanen, Flores, Campbell, Delatraz, Glock, Molina, Stevens, all retirees. And welcome back to the studio. Sorry, my earpiece just fell out, so I'm just sticking it back in, which is very it's like watching me eating, basically. It's horrible. So, Somil, let's go to you first. How was the chat? How do they enjoy that one?
It was intense. It was really good fun. Everyone had a good time speculating about where Jimmy was, what happened to not Canapino, what happened to Guven, what happened to, for that matter...
What happened to Canapino? Where is Canapino?
Great question.
I don't know. That's actually a good question. I'll actually get to finding more about that. But we did see him in a race, I think a couple of weeks ago or something. I'm not sure where, but I did see him somewhere.
He's
not quite sure
he's
about
not
that.
here tonight.
Exactly. He's
so
about there, but he's not there tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. So lots of Jimmy Broadbent fans out there, obviously.
Lots of Jimmy Broadbent fans.
Obviously. Lewis, fun race or not, how did that rate in terms of all the ones that we've seen before? As I said to you at the start of the program, I wasn't sure about the car and track combination. How did it work out for you, do you think?
I think the car was quite tricky. It was quite hard to race, and we saw quite a lot of that. I think some of the drivers had some good fun out there, but I think it was maybe lacking a little bit in the sort of spectacular nature that we've seen from this. Think back to Indianapolis, and even the Kia race that we had a few weeks ago were incredible. Did actually get a message that Hugo Luis, Mr. Racebot, said that he raced that car, that Riley, in 2009, 12 years ago. So it is dated. It is good to see it back out on the racetrack though. So it fills the eyes with that.
Now, the real-world drivers only get basically a couple of hours practice because 6 o'clock is when we announce it and we go racing at 8. Lauren Heinrich joins us as the winner. Bit of a master of these random cars, Lauren. You won a couple of weeks ago and you've won it again in the fun race.
Yeah, I like that quite a lot. When no one knows what we are racing, it's only announced like 1 hour before. I like adapting quickly. I think it suits me pretty well, and yeah, it was a nice race.
A car that you've raced before?
No, I've never raced it before. That was before my time in iRacing. As you say, it was raced in 2009. Back then I was 8 years old, so it was before my time, but it was nice to drive. It was my first time.
And how did it feel?
It felt, to be honest, it felt quite easy to me because it was so understeery. But that also made it hard because as soon as you pushed a bit too much, you got the understeer and you missed the exit so much, and then you lost quite a bit of time. But what was quite nice is that the car gives a lot of draft. Because I couldn't get rid of Phil. He was always in my draft. When he made a mistake, he was like 0.9 seconds back. I tried to get him out of the draft, but then I made a mistake. So yeah, we were all race long, bunched up together, and that's what made it exciting.
Dallara F3 at the Nürburgring coming up in a few moments' time. That must have been a popular and happy choice for you. Looking for good points with Graham tonight?
Yeah, I like the Nürburgring, but I have to say I also like Monza, so it was a tough choice. But I voted for Monza, I have to say. But Nürburgring is also nice. It's more or less my home track, and yeah, I'm looking forward.
Awesome. Well, I'll let you get on. We're going to have qualifying come up in a few moments' time. Qualifying will be with the sim drivers. And Lewis, interesting one, because the sim drivers have got plenty of tricks up their sleeve, haven't they?
Yeah, we got told in the briefing before this to all of the drivers that let's just sort it amongst yourselves. Let's have a gentleman's agreement and just agree to not take the sort of exploits that we all kind of know about. I don't really want to go too much into it because it's it's a topic that we've all had to suffer through a little bit with everything that's been going on. Hopefully and thankfully, with everyone that was actually in the briefing, everyone seemed fairly positive on the idea of let's just have a good time in this and let's just take this sort of a mix of fun and serious is the whole idea of the series is. So hopefully we're going to see everything, although I will say my vote was also for Monza, so
Yeah, I don't know. Monza would have provided us better racing, but perhaps a bit more chaos, I suppose. I'm never a big fan of the Nürburgring GP tracks. What's your opinion? Both Formula 1 tracks, of course.
Nürburgring any day. I know it's not the Nordschleife, right? But it's still such an amazing circuit. It's such an amazing circuit to race on. And Monza, I don't know, it's just a straight chicane, a couple of right-hand turns, and there we are. I'm not a big fan of Monza, as you can clearly tell. and it just makes for a very similar kind of draft-based racing. But Nürburgring all day. I'm happy that Nürburgring actually won. Should be a fun one, this.
Can you explain what's wrong with draft-based racing? Draft-based racing sounds...
It's just a bit bland. Monza's not too fun to drive on, but hey, whatever it is.
Thankfully, Somil is going back to the chat now, so Lewis and I can enjoy it. And we're going to go off to qualifying. Let's get into it. Look at that. Clouds over Nürburgring. Pretty standard, really, isn't it? It's lucky we're not racing on actual weather conditions. Otherwise, it would be snowing there right now. I'm pretty sure the Nürburgring's under quite a lot of snow, as is most of Northern Europe. As per usual, Lewis, everybody came out at the same time.
Yeah, I was almost panicking that we just got the start of the race there, but nope, everyone's just trying to fan and find their way out on the circuit. I get that everyone has to be out pretty earlier because you want clean air to yourself, but clean air doesn't mean in the middle of the pack. I'd almost be tempted, if I'm not at the end of pit lane, to wait just a little bit, because track position around here, you really don't want to be too near anyone else because it's such a circuit based on clean air and stuff.
Other thing, of course, we've managed to make these qualifying sessions just that little longer, so we're 15 minutes in. That, Lewis, was because it was hard to get enough temperature in the tyres in a 10-minute qualifying session to really make it worthwhile. Yeah,
it's a car which, naturally with a lot of cars now, start with cold tyres, and so actually putting that temperature and pressure into it is quite hard work. This is why I like the open qualifying session as well, by the way. Just going to throw it out there, is that it's obviously it's mimicking real life in the sense of everyone's on track. We had this at Interlagos where we had a lot of drivers complaining that they didn't get their clean lap in, or whatever rubbish that was about. Did. But also, you don't get real chance to sneakily, drag your brakes or whatever. You're all on track at the same time with everyone else. You all go out and do your thing. Love it.
Yeah, dragging the brakes. What's all that about? The other thing that they will be scrutinised heavily on is if they dip their wheels onto the grass, because apparently, unlike in the real world, where that would basically give you no grip for the next two corners, it actually gives you more grip. So definitely one for iRacing to look at in the next update that they have. We are watching Maximilian Beneke in the 33, new teammate, third teammate in the championship. Interesting from a driver that is fighting for the championship, not to have consistency.
It is a bit bizarre to have a third different teammate for Beneke. Now, this could mean one of many things. It may be a little bit tricky to work with. Maybe it's more so it's just based on being busy and not being able to stick around for a few rounds. I think it's Bent Viscal who's in the car this time with Max Beneke. A few new drivers onto the grid. I'm seeing a couple of incidents, by the way. Fritz Schotthorst a little bit further down the order as everyone's... that's a bit of a hard hit as well. No. Almeida after a great one at Snetterton.
Yeah, getting turned around, so that'll be a penalty for somebody. Just a reminder, we do have real-world race control in the sense that we have real humans watching this race and deciding on penalties. Not just watching the feed, by the way, able to access every single car, every single angle, and make really well-judged decisions on the kind of bad or good driving that is going on out there, as well as watching people dipping their wheels on the grass and things like that. They are actually based at the Nürburgring and confirmed that it is raining. It is snowing. So, by the way, I'm in the mountains, 1,200 meters up, and it's raining here. Why is it snowing in the places where it shouldn't be, like Holland? I don't understand it, but that's for another day. We are slowly getting temperature into the tyres now, so it won't be long before we get serious and start actually talking about proper qualifying.
Yeah, I'll go with a little bit of a look into practice that was just before this as well, so we can get a good understanding of what's going on and what we should be looking out for. Sebastian Job in practice prior to this did a 150.199. First lap in this session, a 152.927 from him. So you can see there that we're going to see some much faster times. Sanchez, who did a 151.991 there, his fastest time in practice was a 50.209. So we're looking, this first lap that they've done is at best 1.7 seconds slower than how fast we're expecting these drivers to go towards the end of the session.
Yeah, and before we get too close to the end of that session, let's get one of our real-world drivers that has plenty of virtual experience into the chat. Rudy Van Buren, here he is. It's been a long time, Rudy. Great to speak with you. World's fastest gamer #1, and now real-world pro.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's indeed been a while since I participated in any of these events, but it's good to be back.
Rudy, R-Factor 2 is your playground mainly, so how much experience have you got in iRacing in terms of getting up to speed?
Well, looking at the results of the fundraise, not enough, but that's no excuse. It's good to be back in these race environments. I guess compared to most of the, let's say, pros in this field, I still have more iRacing experience than they do. Maybe not recent, but it's somewhere hidden. So it's slowly getting back.
Now, you're a Dutchman, but you've presumably had plenty of happy memories and experience of the Nürburgring, so it's a good track for you to kick your virtual VCO ProSim campaign off with.
Well, the last time when I drove here in real life, it ended with a proper shunt. So let's do it in a different way tonight and actually have a good race.
Yeah, and it's actually quite nice because we're just watching Olli Pakala here. Haven't seen him for the last couple of rounds, so it's nice for you guys to get together and put together a campaign with Team Redline. Someone who you've enjoyed racing with before?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Olli, were actually talking before the fundraise that it was about 3 years ago since we did something together. So we're getting old in that regard. It's a bit of a reunion, but it's good to be back with the Finnish moustache, and then yeah, let's just hope to end it on a high tonight.
Awesome. Well, great to have you with us, Rudy. Thank you very much for taking part, and thanks for chatting.
Thank you.
Rudy Van Buren, world's fastest gamer, won. Obviously, won that competition by being fast in a variety of sims, not just in R-Factor 2, but very much an R-Factor 2 specialist race in the Le Mans 24-hour virtual, thanks to R-Factor 2, and plenty of other things, Lewis, that you know more about than I do, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw it out there just because it's the only, it's my claim to fame. I beat Rudy Van Buren once at a race in Dubai. Yeah, he was on 80 kilos and I was on nothing. We won't talk about that. It was in some touring cars as well. It's good. I've raced with Rudy quite a bit. He's a massive talent, of course, as we all know. Has been a little bit focused on other things outside of sim racing the last couple of years, but needless to say, every time he gets back into it, still has the pace. And also, we said there about Olli Pakala's moustache. I'm pretty sure, based on some recent racing in some Formula E, the Formula E Accelerate Championship, I'm pretty sure Olli Pakala doesn't have a mustache anymore. That might need to be confirmed elsewhere, but I'm pretty sure he got rid of it.
Did he do a reverse Movember, and rather than grow one, he actually got rid of it for November?
Brave man. I always remember at the it must have been like 2016 or something. He used to brush his mustache down with his fingers and then point at the camera, and I was like, that is really it's ridiculous, but I love it.
It's also very Finnish. If you were to draw a Finn or to put together a Finn in the virtual world, Olli Pakala would very much be it, with a bit of Kimi Räikkönen thrown into mix as well. Talking of virtual racing drivers, this particular session has Jimmy Broadbent in it. So Jimmy is being considered as the sim racing pro. Phoenix McEwen is being considered as the real world driver. I'd be very interested to know what's going on his chat, on his stream, because usually Jimmy has quite good banter with his teammate. But if Phoenix McEwen is anything like the Stig, for instance, Phoenix will not be talking. I know he seems to be a very personal chap, Phoenix McEwen, Australian, so usually they're good for a bit of banter, but I don't know whether he has vocal cords.
Well, we need to send Arjuna off to check two chats.
I'm sure he's sampling both. Somil, are you there to be able to confirm or deny that Phoenix McEwen has a voice?
That I'm not sure, but what I'm sure is that Jimmy's chat hasn't quite voiced out their opinions much about Phoenix yet. Or maybe that's... Oh, wait a minute, I've scrolled down quite a fair bit. That's only the last 6 minutes that I've been able to scroll through. So clearly, they're a lot more active down there.
Well, yeah, yes, they are. Always chatting rubbish as well. Right, 5 minutes remaining then. Time to get serious with qualifying. It is incredibly close, as you would expect from our sim racers. Matt Backham is at the head of the field right now. We ride on board with Joshua Rogers, who I believe is behind Backham. Backham in the 16, yes indeed. So I wonder whether there's a little bit of team play going on here and they're swapping and providing each other a slipstream, because that would work if you trust the guy in front of you to not basically make a mistake. Backham leading Rogers. Rogers is second in qualifying at this second. So it is a Coanda 1-2. Then it's Graham Carroll in third, who's been putting up great performances. You mentioned the Formula E Championship. He's able to handle that in R Factor 2 as well as all of the various high-level competitions in iRacing that's happening at the moment. Then it's Coanda with Jeremy Booterloop in fourth position. Then it's Red Bull with Sebastian Job in fifth. And Team Redline, previously Red Bull in sixth with Holtzman and Nesov. So really a dominating grid from Coanda and Red Bull right now. And there we go, there's the switch.
So Graham Carroll obviously last time had a bad qualifying. I think he qualified 21st or something and had to work in the race to even get inside the top 10. So starting from third now, if that's what's holds, this qualifying session is about to change rapidly, by the way. There we go, a big 3/10 improvement from Josh Rogers, obviously with that switch around, and now we'll probably lose out a little bit on this time as he slipstreams Mac Backham. But it is so important, considering the form that Rogers and Changuven are on, for Graham Carroll to get a great qualifying round here, because he needs to be up the top end if they have any hope of fighting for that championship.
Simone Maria Marteno, who slightly embarrassed himself at Snetterton last time out, goes into P2 ahead of Backham, ahead of Sanchez, ahead of Booterloop and Carroll. Some of these drivers will have improved on that last lap, whereas others have not. Sebastian Job's dropped down to 12th position, so I presume Job was giving the slipstream to Carroll if those two are running together. I don't know if they are. And this time will be Job who will be the improver. We ride on board with Sebastian Job. Is that Graham Carroll ahead? I'm not sure it is.
No, it's Romanidis.
In which case, yeah, so Sebastian Job having to do this alone, and they will be looking at the Coanda performance. And you know, Coanda are incredibly clever at finding all these little secret tweaks in iRacing, things that wouldn't appear in real life. But the wording of the regulations for this round has changed, and it basically says, Lewis, don't do anything that doesn't work in real life, correct?
Yeah, I think they had that last round. I think they've slightly relaxed it this round based on not being able to prove certain things, etc., etc. But there's like a hard gentleman's agreement to be like, let's just not mess around, and whether that stands, well, we'll have to wait and see. So far, from what we're seeing in the session, I have not seen anything peculiar or dodgy from any of the drivers on the grid, so it seems pretty good in my books. Ostgaard there jumps up into what is now third position as Sanchez moves up into second, so the Coanda slipstream party is working quite nice, because Ostgaard is also in that, as is Booterloop, and then of course the others we've seen, like the Job as well.
Yeah, but how will the likes of Coanda, the likes of Red Bull, respond to Coanda doing team play and providing slipstreams to each other? It'd be interesting to know. Well, Sebastian Job has just done a mega lap, and we saw on board with him, he was nowhere near any other car, but he's happily taken a bit of a slipstream at the end of the lap, I think, from the 66 that is ahead of him, and suddenly he pops himself right into the mix of things into P2.
I think he needs to back off a little bit though before, because this lap that he's currently on, he's going to get blocked a little bit by Romanidis, who's directly ahead of him. So he may need to back off a little bit just before the final lap starts, if he actually gets around to doing it. He should do it. He's got time to do it, I think. And then use the slipstream on that final lap.
Yeah, now this is another thing I was thinking. The guys at the head of this field will possibly get another lap. The guys at the tail end of the chain may well pick up the checkered flag. So that will be very, very interesting to see. And remember, where you are in the pit boxes basically depends on how you enter the server. So it's a little bit random. You really do need to be fast to get in. And we ride on board with Maximilian Beneke here, coming up towards the final chicane. 20 seconds remaining. Ooh. And it's going to be close for him to pick up another lap, that's for sure. Where is Beneke right now? Down in 9th position, behind Matt Backham, who wants hard pole position, but is now down in 8th spot. Coming around the final corner, he may well just pick up another lap time, but there'll be plenty that will not.
Job isn't. Job, he's going to finish
Over
this
the
lap.
line.
His session's done. Oh my goodness.
Over the line, and these cars are now picking up the checkered flag, but plenty others will not be able to get another lap. And a little bit of a shame there, and the way that the cookie has crumbled. Here is the 22 car of Sebastian Job. So he will not get another lap, although actually my timing screen is not showing those that have picked up the flag, so that's a little annoying. That was always good information back in the day. But the head of the field are still pushing on. Rogers has the pole position ahead of Sebastian Job for the moment. Sanchez in 3rd, Backham in 4th, Carroll's dropped to 5th, Usgard, another of our Coanda boys, in 6th position. Marceno's dropped down to 7th. Then it's Holtzman, Beneke in 9th. Oh my god, the chat is going to be off the scale with Beneke, Grumpy being all the way down there. Kroenke 10th position. And where are the red line teammates that should have been helping Beneke? That hasn't worked out. When you look at what Coanda have done, how they've worked together, especially Backham and Josh Rogers, pat on the back, I say. How do you feel about it, Lewis?
It's elsewhere in sim racing, we see this kind of thing where you have a big team. I'll speak of something over elsewhere in sim racing in race room competitions, on race room racing experience. There's a team called Mirror Esports. It's a very well-run team. They're all Hungarian, and they're all very well organised on track. They're all like great teammates. They kind of work together in the same way that Coanda do. They're all in a train. They all work together in qualifying, and then they go against like Williams Esports and that lot, and they normally beat them because they're all working so well together. They understand what's going on, and no one else quite has that mentality to work to that level. No one's improving on this final lap though, so I think for those that didn't get their final lap, might be a bit of a breather.
Yeah, interesting that, isn't it? That despite the advantage, maybe that 15-minute window is perfect for getting the tyres up to the right temperature, up to the right pressure without going over the top. Because, as you say, there was a slight change in time for Boutaloop, but he did not change position, stayed in 11th spot. And so we have our grids, and it's once again those two men who are so strong in iRacing. The champion, world champion in Porsche Esports Super Cup from the first year, Josh Rogers, and from the second year, Sebastian Job. There we go, 1-2. That is how they line up, with Alejandro Sanchez getting himself into 3rd position. Matt Backham, another strong performance from Backham, in 4th. Carroll for Red Bull in 5th position. Usgard for Coanda in 6th spot. Good performance from Simone Maria Martheno. It'll be interesting to see how they get on with Zach Crawford 7th, Patrick Holtzman 8th for Redline, Beneke 9th for Redline, Kroenke in 10th, then Boutaloop and Chris Lullum, who shares with Danny Ukundela, so that should be a very strong pairing in the second half of the race. Felix Ludding and Raul Hyman 3rd in the championship, remember, 13th. Salva Talens with Heinemann in 14th, Freak Schottles 15th, Keiko Schub 16th, Martin van Loosenholt 17th, and Carly Janssen was very strong actually at Snetterton, only 18th here. Jürgen Franken 19th, Danny Elgabe in 20th, Andrea Butcher 21st, shares with Louis Delatraz. Then Marek Lemonek in 22nd, Thomas Petitjean with Romain Grosjean 23rd, Niels Koch and Phil Dennis. Watch that grid, that lineup there. Row 12 is going to be one to watch. Yannick Lapsha and Daniel Rowbottom 25th, Epson Lopez 26th, James Saunders with Timo Glock 27th, Sindre Setas with a new teammate Tregurtha in 28th, Oscar Manga in 29th, then Almeida with Daniel Morad in 30th position, but still less than a second separating them all. Then Burkay and Will Stevens, Romanidis and Headley, Lucas Muller and Bobby Thompson, Bent Nemeth and Pinheiro, Mikey Wagner and Tomczek Frank Schlotterman and Jens Klingman 36. We continue. Where's Jimmy Broadbent? Lars Frontos and Dennis Weiss. Then Florian Denzer and Ollie Packler. Woo, that's a bad qualifying for those two in 40th. Jan Veniger 41st. He'll be on his own because Sophia Fleurs didn't manage to get into the session. Rick Yonk and Dennis Lind at the tail of the field. Jimmy Broadbent. What? 3.1 back, Jimmy? What's going on? You're giving a lot of work for Phoenix McEwen to do. We were supposed to talk to Jimmy Broadbent at one point, but I think that was earlier on in the day, so we're not going to be able to give him a chance to find out what happened. 3.1 back though. The chat, Somil, must be going mental.
Surprisingly, not quite. There's been more discussion about what's been happening regarding the qualifying techniques that certain teams have been using, and that's a topic for another day. But thankfully, all is good. There's a bit of a gentleman's agreement going on in this series, as you guys mentioned early on, about not doing anything that can't be done in real life. So that sort of thing is sorted in this series, and we've seen a very representative qualifying in that regard today.
So the chat are happy with what Coanda seemed to have done there and really helped them all get to the head of the field?
Not all of them are aware, but I'm not sure if this is the right place to discuss that.
Why were they not listening?
There are things that we can't quite speak about on an official platform, but they are to be searched in other platforms like Google and whatnot. It's a bit of an open secret at this stage, but yes, there's a bit of a gentleman's agreement going on, and thankfully the teams and drivers have sorted it out all on their own. That's good stuff. But there's a bit of a buzz. People are liking the Nürburgring.
Okay. Well, at least he's defending his own rights in this next race.
Right, I was about to say.
No, there's a bit of a feeling that there's going to be carnage at turn number 1, being a downhill right-hand hairpin. But apart from that, it's a good track.
Yeah, absolutely. I think certainly the slipstream effect from the latest update from iRacing seems to have a really profound effect, Lewis, on the way that these races pan out. We saw it already before in the last round, and again, I think in these long back straights specifically, into the heavy braking zone, the sharp chicane, that could be a good place to make a move.
We've got T1, obviously, primary overtaking opportunity, as well as the NGK chicane on the backstretch. But don't discount the idea that someone's going to be throwing up in the inside of the arena section, as well down into sort of 4 and 5. There are some great overtaking opportunities on this circuit, and with the way these cars are currently working, we've got plenty of space for them to do so. About 1 minute and 10 seconds, by the way, until we hit the race. And that 40-minute race that is coming up is going to be pretty tricky for some of these to sort of manage their way through, and it's all about sort of patience and making sure that your tyres are intact.
Yep, so we have a 40-minute 2-driver race coming up for you in a few moments' time, and it's being held by VCO on iRacing. iRacing, plenty of opportunity for all kinds of silliness, whether it be in circuit racing, oval racing, dirt racing, or dirt oval racing if you really fancy. And of course, this weekend is the Daytona 24 Hours. Daytona 500 NASCAR special event. So if you do have iRacing, then make sure that you at least try and get a license, which is what I'm trying to do right now. It's really, really hard in oval racing. But yeah, absolutely. iRacing is the very, very best platform for sim racing out there. Right, races on. Well, I mean, it's nearly on. There's a few cars on the grid. Lots of logging in to do. We're going to have the sim drivers start, and they'll be handing over to their real-world counterparts in the middle part of the race, and then the second half of the race will be done by those drivers that we saw take part in the fun race a little bit earlier on. So an intense period for our sim drivers, and Lars Frontus will also be driving alone. Wagner has not managed to join him, so a few drivers having to do the full 45-minute stint. No real penalties because, of course, when they do pit, Lewis, they're not actually filling up with fuel or changing their tyres, are they?
No, it's like a faux pit stop, but it's the way they've got things at the moment with some of the drivers. We've seen it before. I think Bathurst, Jimmy did the race by himself. We've seen it before. Sometimes it's just a case that the driver has to do it by themselves, but the grid is very much filling up. 20 seconds to go before the race begins, and it's going to be a hard charge into T1.
Just a reminder then of our championship standings then. Joshua Rogers leads the championship ahead of Graham Carroll in second and Sebastian Joe in third, with Felix Luding in fourth position. Josh Rogers has nearly earned himself $3,000, by the way, racing in the VCO ProSim Series. I think that's pretty cool. The grid is now formed and we are getting very much ready get this race underway. Sebastian Job on the left-hand side, Joshua Rogers on the right-hand side. A not very good start from the Red Bull car by the looks of things. A little bit less wheel spin than the rest, and Joshua Rogers, I think, will take a commanding lead going into turn one. A little bit early on the brakes, a safe brake into turn one. And is that a red line car on the inside through turn one now being pushed to the outside line? I think it may well be. It could either be Graham Carroll or Matt Backham, and there is the distinctive orange car of Maximilian Beneke trying to go round the outside of a very slow starting Alejandro Sanchez, I think.
Yeah, I didn't catch who it was. There was someone, I think, about 5 rows back on the left-hand side that I'm pretty sure jumped the start. But, there's carnage in the back of the pack. That's the number 11, I think it is, all involved in this. So something's happened clearly coming out of the arena section where we're expecting to see some incidents.
Yeah, exactly. Potential for taking a lot of curb there as we now come down to the second half of the lap, and it's Rogers, Job, Sanchez. Oh, and there was a spinner.
Cronkite.
Was that Jeremy Boot? It was Cronkite. Oh no, putting himself into the gravel down at the hairpin. Again, just a man that I keep tipping and failing, and he fails to deliver. Maximilian Beneke right on the tail of Jeremy Bouteloup. Bouteloup defends to the inside line. Beneke needs this because he's got Chris Lullen behind him. In fact, there's a huge queue of cars. Salva Talens and Felix Luding also there, all trying to get past, and it's not a very fast lap. First lap from Jeremy Bouteloup, and now surely he's going to be swamped as they come down this long back straight, up the hill and into the braking zone at the chicane.
Yeah, Beneke should be able to get this one done. I think there's been battling for the lead between, Job. Job has taken the lead as we've got this battling coming into the NGK chicane behind this, but Sebastian Job up into the race lead, and that is so important considering it's just dropping Rogers back into the path potentially of Graham Carroll, but they're not done yet. Josh Rogers fancying to battle it back. We saw these two battling over the race win at Silverstone in the Porsche Esports Super Cup, and a fantastic display between the two champions in that series. Oh, so close to turn one. Fantastic stuff between the two of them, and Job very much in the lead. Alejandro Sanchez, though, being a part of this.
I don't know how he held on there because Sebastian Job dipping his wheel heavily into the gravel on the exit of the final corner, and that gave Joshua Rogers the momentum all the way down the straight. But Sebastian Job showing racecraft that he's developed over the last couple of years. Remember, a few years ago, Job was really a one-lap specialist, incredibly fast, but could not stitch a race together at all. And now he's doing a much better job of things and really knows where to place his car. Mike Wagner driving on his own. And is he the car on the inside line? No, he's the car facing the wrong direction. And one F3 car goes high and mighty into the sky. We have lost number 6, Mohamed Ibrahim, number 37, Job van Oosterhout, Richard Wagner, and Sophia Flörsch. Well, Sophia Flörsch is not part of it, so she's entered with the wrong car.
Ooh.
And Jimmy Broadbent also getting involved as well.
Wrong call there, Jimmy. Should have gone left. Oh, that was such a tight turn one. There was so much contact going on. It's so easy to make the wrong call in that decision. You've got a split second to make it. This is the exit of the arena section where so much was going on. Elgabe escorted wide there by someone, and the carnage ensues afterwards.
Yeah, and you said that 11 was facing the wrong direction there as well. That would have been Andrea Butcher. So I think we've had kind of about 5-10 cars. And Lucas Muller's the wall heavily there. He is, he's helped himself out of the race. Very lucky not to take anybody else out, but 2 big hits. And that is a very sorry looking Talara 318 that will not be making its way back to pit lane. And therefore, is out the race, because you do need to get back to the pits to at least use that one fast repair. My God, are we still watching replays of people falling off the track? Sandra Sentas facing the wrong direction. Just a reminder, people, these are our pro sim drivers. These aren't the real world guys that have not much experience in iRacing. There's a lot of people facing the wrong direction.
These are the big boys. Yeah, they are. I think at this level where you... Oh, there's another one. Who was that? Who was that who just got caught out? Someone out of T1 backwards. Yeah, they're pushing to their very, very limit, and I think they're just pushing it that little bit too far. And Nürburgring is certainly a track that bites. Let's watch Oscar Mangan, who's the driver that spun at turn 1. Maybe he's going to light the rears up. There it goes. Oh, easily done.
Lucky not to take anybody else out there. Just about kept himself out the way. Now here is the battle for the lead of the race. Now it was 3 on that first lap, wasn't it? Sebastian Job, Josh Rogers and Sanchez. But now it looks as though Backham and Carroll and Usgaard have also joined the party. And in fact, I think also Martheno is just about there as well. So really a nice queue of 6 for the lead of the race. And Josh Rogers is not doing what he's usually able to do and just kind of get the lead and run away with things and create a big gap like we've seen in other races, because Sebastian Job a bit of a cork in the bottle right now.
I think it's just the nature of the car, the slipstream, pulling each other along and all together, and it's just, if you put Josh Rogers at the front of the field, he'd be doing the same thing. They'd all be kind of remaining close to this point. Maybe not pushing too hard too early is going to be the key of this race. I'll just keep our little note. Job is in the championship fight for the sim drivers side of things, but he's 20 points out. Let's keep our focus on Rogers and Carroll, who are separated by just 6 points and are currently running in 2nd and 5th. Let's take a look at this replay. Booterloop round in the 911 car, and that is not so pretty.
Yeah, Booterloop has been heavily defending, and I wonder whether Coanda's kind of briefing for Jeremy Booterloop for this one was to kind of try and hold Maximilian Beneke back as much as possible. They all know their roles, as we've been talking about before, and actually Booterloop just trying too hard to stay ahead of Beneke there, and that has now released Beneke. He sits in 8th position, but there is a 2-second gap to that leading group of cars. So let's see if he now bangs in the fastest lap of the race in his pursuit of the leading group.
Saunders getting involved with Talons there. I think running down the hill, number 4, number 10, battling it out. James Saunders has a little bit of a reputation and is now building a reputation of trying to race his way up the order, battling with all the RHG Esports drivers as well, and just trying to find his way up and through. He's very, very fast. Whoa, that was a bit of a chop. Speaking of the reputation.
Van Loosenhoorn we've seen very strong in certain races. He's been a bit of a flash in the pan though, Van Loosenhoorn. Sometimes incredibly strong, sometimes really nowhere at all. They are just ahead now, number 9, so he's the next man for Saunders to try and get past. And Janssen is the car just up the road from that, so not really in shouting distance quite yet, but pretty close. 32 minutes remaining in this race, so plenty still to go. It is a 45-minute race, I think, by the looks of things. I don't know why we said 40 earlier on. And pit lane will open 26 minutes into the race as the top 3 come across the line. Then Backham, Carroll, Usgaard. Then Marceno is kind of on his own. Maximilian Beneke is still being chased by Chris Lullam. Lullam is holding on to Beneke 8th and 9th. Then it's Felix Ludding in 10th position. Raul Hyman he'll be handing over to. Then look at this for a great battle. 3 wide once again going into turn 1.
Yeah, they're trying to find any way through. There's Saunders, and he's going to lose the position as well. I think that's Talons who's going to go around the outside through the arena section as well, side by side behind them. Oh, Saunders pushes Talons off the road. Naughty, naughty boy. Still going to be able to hold that position as well. The number 9 car as well, just chipping and chopping. I will just give a bit of a note. Oh, actually, we'll do that after this because this is insane as well. Talons as well on the inside of Cock running down the hill into 5 and 6. That's a pretty nice move on the inside there, but this is some dicey battling for a bit further down the order. You'd think that maybe they want to calm things down, get in line and start setting some good lap times to catch up to the top lot.
Well, remember the likes of Phil Dennis will be jumping into Niels Koch's car, and so really Niels has got to do a good job of things. He didn't do a very good qualifying, and he will want to get himself as high up the order as possible because we know that Phil has the pace to get that car onto the road if the gap is not too big. But the pace is so strong right now from our leaders that it's quite hard for the rest of them really to keep up as we switch our attention a bit closer to the front of the field.
Yeah, I was going to say this battle between 4th and 5th Mac Backham and Graham Carroll, they were side by side a little bit through the arena section. Graham Carroll is desperately trying to find his way through at the moment and try and work his way up the order because he's seeing the top 3. Look at the gap. They are starting to split apart, this top 5, as basically Job and Rogers are being able to run away from Sanchez, who just doesn't have the pace. Backham and Carroll, oh my word, we've had carnage there. Is that the number 4 without a rear wing? Did I see? Or was that just a trick of the eye?
Well,
there's a rear wing. I don't think that was a trick of the eye.
Yeah, and it actually Niels Koch has gone into the pits, so I think he was involved in that, I'm afraid, and that has put paid to Phil Dennis having a good result here today, having just bigged him up. Curse of the commentator. Replay on board with Morad. It does look as though someone literally just rear-ended Niels Koch. Maybe Niels just jumped on the brakes a little too early there, but certainly hard to tell from Almeida. Here we are. And actually, it was a bit of loading. Old school karting term, that one. Salva Talens on the brakes early. That caught out Niels Koch. He got rear-ended by another. So I'm afraid that works in karting where you've got plastic bumpers, but it does not work in a Formula 3 car.
No, certainly not. And that was what can only be described as not ideal. And I think a few drivers will be paying a virtual repair bill after this race. Through the Schumacher S, though, it is still Job leading the way, but not by much. You saw him pull. This is what I'm quite interested with. You saw him come out of the Schumacher S and then pull instantly right to try and break the slipstream and just trying to sort of give a little bit of clearance to himself. Maybe just trying to get whatever advantage he can over Rogers behind.
On board with Simone Marina Martheno. Unfortunate at Snetterton, having had the possibility of leading the race thanks to Phil Dennis, but then making a mistake late in the race. This time sitting in 7th position under the rear wing of Tommy Usgaard just ahead in the Coanda machine. And for the moment, you have to say, Marceno does look very strong. We'll be handing over to Crawford. We don't really know too much about Crawford's pace, although it was pretty strong, to be honest, in our fun race earlier on. How does he fare in a Formula 3 car? As now we go back to the battle for 14th position.
Yeah, it's oh, there we go. We've got the inside. That's Carl E. Janssen making a move on Luding. So Luding not having the pace right now as things stand. Good move from Carl E. Janssen. We were saying last round when we were watching that Kia race, we weren't too sure about Carl E. Janssen. I was doing some research for the Daytona 24, the iRacing one, before the broadcast a few weeks ago. He's had a podium. In that, I can't remember if it was a win or not, but certainly was in my podium list of people. So has been around in iRacing for a very long time. 8k of iRating, and certainly showing the pace at the moment. Currently in that 13th spot and looking pretty racy. Like I said, getting by Luding, who we know is quite high in the championship, is currently 4th in the sim driver standing. So where he currently is on the road is not good.
Yeah, exactly. We're handing over to Raoul Hyman, who's 3rd in the pro drivers. And the battle really in the pro drivers is becoming a 4-horse race, really, between Sage Karam, Raoul Hyman, and then Lauren Heinrich and Aychan Guven have the same amount of points at the head of the field. Aychan driving, of course, with Josh Rogers, Lauren driving with Graham Carroll. At the moment, they both have 141 points apiece. And now, Lewis, I know you were very excited about talking about the championship a couple of races ago. Now it's more appropriate. Now we're around 6 of 8.
Oh, I love talking about it. After round 1, instantly, just boom. Right, let's talk about the challenge. It has no implication at that point. But yeah, we are getting into the thick end of things. We're getting into the meat of this. And this is where mistakes really, really cost you. And we've seen a few over this championship. We see, of course, Ian Changuven and Josh Rogers, who have won 3 of the races this season. They did have an issue, if I recall, about when they pitted as well. The same one that we saw from Beneker as well, I believe, about pitting too early or something in that description, or maybe too late at Suzuka,
yeah.
And that pushed them outside of the top 10. Now the issue with that is, sure, you make that in round 1, round 2, round 3, you can come back from that. If anyone does anything like that now, it's too late in the game to pull anything back from that.
Absolutely, you need to be a little bit safer, that's for sure. We're right on board with Sebastian Job, who has huge pressure from Josh Rogers, but to be honest, it's pressure that he knows very well. It's pressure that he absorbs every single week at the Porsche Esports Super Cup. These two have raced each other for years and years and have become really the stars of iRacing over the last couple of years. When it comes to sprint racing, of course, when in the long form races, we do see performances come in from other teams, but certainly the sprint format, it's Rogers versus Job almost every single championship, and it's great to see it playing out here. Alejandro Sanchez, by the way, still holding on in third position, ahead of Matt Backham in fourth, and actually Graham Carroll's not close enough to challenge right now. Graham Carroll is starting to form a train with Usgaard and Marceno behind. There they are at the back of shot, and then it's Beneke, who has gone from being 2.5 back to 1.8. So slowly but surely chipping away, but he's running out of time, really. He's going to have to rely on Ben Viscal to do the hard work for him.
We're not too far away as well from the pit stop window opening in this session. So we are at that point where your co-driver is definitely going to come into this in some degree. I think with Beneke, he's definitely moving up. I will say the top 7, by the way, there is only one change of position from where we qualified in the top 7. There's a bit of dirt being kicked up there ahead of the 26 cars. That must have been Mac Backham on the left-hand side of the road a little bit too much going into turn 1. But yeah, of the top 7, only one driver has changed position from their qualifying order, and that is Mr. Sebastian Job. Oh no! Carly Jansen picking him up a little bit earlier, and bam, spun at T1.
Let's have a look what happened then. I'm going to come back to your point about qualifying in just a second. Carly Jansen into turn 1. And he did get helped. Yeah, got helped
Luding
around. That's a shame. Was it Felix Luding?
I believe so. Yeah, it is.
Yes, it was. Good IDing. And actually, look how far back he is. So he brakes later and probably can't do much more. Trying to carry speed. That was clumsy Luding. That was very clumsy Luding. Time penalty for Maximilian Beneke. What on earth is that for? 10-second penalty? I wonder whether they're suggesting... No, I'm not going to speculate, but he's got a 10-second time penalty. Oh, gosh. Maximilian Beneke has a bit of a a hate-hate relationship with race control over the last couple of weeks, and he's really, really not going to appreciate that. Remember, he threw a tantrum at Snetterton. And basically didn't finish the race because of a penalty that he had been handed that at the time we didn't know anything about. We thought that maybe he'd made a mistake in the pit stop or something, but he'd actually been given a penalty from qualifying. He was informed of that penalty during the session and decided to bail out of the session and properly squeeze out of the pram moment it was. Marceno under pressure here now, side by side with Usgaard. Marceno has the inside line here, so this should be a move done. And yes, now we just need to shut the door. Yes, he can shut the door.
Oh!
Shut the door. Shut the door. Don't shut it. Oh, no. Oh.
He mistimed that. Oh, I think I won't take a look at that again. On board potentially with Oscar. Let's take a look.
Here we
Is
go.
he there?
So,
he's there.
of course he's there, and he's getting the call from his spotter, but for a moment he wasn't there, and at that moment Simona should have shut the door.
He should have. Yeah, I agree. He should have. If we wait for it, this moment he should have been on the left-hand side. You're absolutely right, because there was no overlap at that point, and he's left the door open. I mean, if you're being, of that kind of mind about it, then maybe you could say Oscar was going for a gap that was always going to close, and there is that potential. But for my money, he was pretty much there by the time they got to the apex, and you can't expect a car to disappear. And you're racing at the end of the day. What do you expect the guy to do?
Well, I think that, and this could be a discussion that we could do for hours. But the whole thing about within a sim is you have a spotter that tells you corner by corner, second by second, if you've got somebody alongside you on the left or on the right, you know exactly where they are. In the real world, you could be in a Formula 3 car in that situation and turn in not knowing that person has decided to throw it up the inside. But you have no excuse in sim racing because you are told, and you have radars in some sims, and you definitely have a spotter in this. And honestly, you have no excuse to turn in on somebody once they're on the inside. Oh, collisions further back. That was a messy one. And again, another very sorry-looking Formula 3 car heads to pit lane. Pablo Lopez it is. Will hand over to Mike Epps. A bit of a star also from Snetterton. Yeah, Felix Ludding has a 10-second time penalty as well for causing a collision. And actually, Lopez loses the rear end and gets nailed. So that was very much Lopez's fault there. Although a racing incident, I suppose you would call it, because he was out of control when he made contact with the other car.
May just be as well within time of the pit window for drivers to switch over, because it was 26:22 in game, blah blah. That's because it's the way the in-game time works is slightly different from what we see on the timesheet. It's a little bit boring, but the note was that it was 26:22 in game, which was about 15-20 seconds after that crash. So if they were a little bit slow enough,
okay.
Pablo Lopez should be able to hand over to Mike Epps with no further repercussions, so should be okay.
Yeah, let's not forget they do fast repair, so they can, as long as they tick it, they go into the pits and the car is instantly replaced with a new one. The only issue with a fast repair is you have to go through the warm-up cycle of the tyres. Now, Sebastian Job is so aware of that slipstream, as you say, instantly going to the inside line, trying to break the toe. I wonder how he feels about handing over to Philippe Eng with Ayachan Guven chasing him. Now, Guven does iRacing week in, week out. Philippe Eng has huge experience on sim racing platforms, but doesn't necessarily compete as much as Ayachan Guven. So it'll be very interesting to see how this battle plays out when our real-world drivers are able to participate. We've got Martheno into pit lane after that spin, by the way, handing over to Crawford. I expect to see that car going backwards. Felix Ludding with a 10-second time penalty, handing over to Raul Hyman. Unfortunately, for Hyman, who is high up in the championship, it's going to be a bit of a disappointing day here at the Nürburgring. Spoke to him, by the way, on the VCO chat show on Monday. If you've not had a chance to have a watch of that, then get yourself onto the playlist on YouTube and have a watch. A very intelligent man is Raul Hyman. He's actually got a law degree. Hasn't done any real world racing for a year and a bit now, but took his iRacing as seriously as he did his real world in 2020 and started from scratch and is now, well, third in the championship. Not bad.
Not bad indeed. I mean, you'd almost be a bit easy if you think of it like a few years ago. You'd be like, oh well, you know, the pro drivers coming in, they're pro from the real. They don't take this online game racing seriously. That is a solid no out of 10 in 2021 because the sim drivers, the pro drivers, everyone takes it seriously, and the pro drivers are weirdly very good at this kind of thing. They're good at this racing lark. And jumping into it, and when they start taking it seriously, they're monstrously fast.
It's absolutely true. If you're taking it seriously enough, and Raul was talking about if he was doing a qualifying session, for instance, for Snetterton, where he had to qualify last time out, he would run through qualifying simulations. Split strategy. Josh Rogers comes into the pits, having been tucked under the rear wing of Sebastian Job. Job carries on. So Ayachan Guven will take over the co-anded car. But Job stays out to do one more lap. And is this an undercut? Is this potentially an overcut? Who is going to be the faster? Because the slipstream is so powerful. I'm really curious to see how this plays out. We've got very much a split strategy. We've got Beckham in as well. Benekay's come in as well. And Martin van Loosenord. But staying out is Job, Sanchez, Carroll, Chris Lullum up to fourth position.
The fear for Rogers is when he hands over to Ayachan Guven is traffic, as we're seeing some battling here. Is that Jimmy Broadbent?
That is Jimmy Broadbent.
Yeah. Is he going a lap down
still
though?
In the car?
That is a better
he's not
question
still
than what I was going to ask.
Well, he's not in the car. He's handed over to a virtual driver, and in fact, Jimmy Broadbent is in our virtual studio-ish thing. Hello, Jimmy. Nice to see you. Appalling qualifying, wasn't it?
The whole thing didn't go very well this time. It was one of those things where I just didn't seem to hook anything up. I just went out there and kept making these amateur mistakes, and then by the time it got to the end, I just sat at the back, which was frustrating. But to be honest, there's not really much I can do anyway against these esports guys. So whether I do it quickly or slowly, I'm still at the back anyway.
Yeah, now a real world pro. Now you're driving in the Praga. You should be in the other half of the grid.
They keep telling me that. I'm wondering if it's going to start happening though. I'm not sure that's an effect there, but yeah, maybe a little bit more time in the F3 car in the future for me, I think.
Now, usually on your stream, Jimmy, of these races, you have great banter. I remember watching you and Mike Rockenfeller, having great fun chatting away during the race. You got Phoenix McEwen as your teammate today, a man who is... Oh dear, Nick Yellerly get it all very wrong. A man who is very much
That's good for us.
virtual.
Another place.
There's another place. There we go. Yeah, so is Phoenix McEwen a bit like the Stig? Does he not speak?
I mean, he speaks, but I'm not really sure what I can ask him, what I can't ask him. We were talking about the possibility of maybe making a AI dating app and calling it RAM, so we could maybe meet another AI. But it's a real experience. Makes me feel very old.
I don't think, a very strange one to be having a teammate that is a virtual driver. Make sure you get himself onto Instagram and various channels. Actually, Felix has just joined Twitter, apparently. And does he have an Australian accent, or has he spent too much time in Europe now that Aussie accent's disappeared?
It's got an Aussie accent. He knows what drop bears are. So I think there's still a lot of that going on there. But yeah, I mean, my chat love him. They're asking lots of questions about him. They're not all nice questions though.
I imagine he doesn't really know many answers to them specifically. But did you know who Phoenix McEwen was before you got teamed up with him yesterday?
I had heard of him before, but I think that's just by virtue of hanging around VCO. So it was interesting to meet the man or robot. I don't know what the hell do you call him, AI. It was interesting to meet him.
Absolutely. Well, Jimmy, thank you for all your entertainment, and thank you as always for being part of this. It's always great to have you along. I hope that your virtual driver does good things for you.
Yeah, well, he can't do any worse than me, can he? Cheers, Ben.
This is true. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Yes, so it's very difficult to give you any idea if you aren't aware of who Phoenix McEwen is, other than just go onto Instagram and have a look and just be bamboozled by the possibility of a very kind of... Lewis, take over from me. I'm not sure what to say.
It's a movement. Oh, who's that off? We'll change topics. It goes Garcia, who's off, by the way. I think he got escorted off there. It's a movement to an experiment, a movement in the modern world, and seeing how some things work. And I think there's always positivity in experimenting and stuff, and it's always nice to see new things tried. And to Phoenix McEwen and throwing it around the circuit, I'm all for it. Why not? Why not? What's the issue with it?
I have a massive issue in that he's got double the amount of Instagram followers that I have, and I'm real. I'm actually, and I go to. The scary thing is, if some of his photos, he's at races, right? So he's at races that you are at. He's taken photos of places that you have seen, and yet he's a virtual face, but in a real world. And there is something very clever going on. I don't really know where to go further than that, but it's I'm mainly annoyed about the fact he's got more Instagram followers than us. But that's simple as that. Now he started Twitter, he's going to take over the world of Twitter.
But it's because being a man of the machine, he understands how to get all of the stuff much better than we do. So that's why he knows how to cheat the systems. That's what I'm going to go with anyway. He's
able to talk to Instagram, the virtual person, the virtual thing, and go, "Hey, Instagram, how do you work?" I don't know if they talk in ones and zeros or how they work. Either way, should we go back to racing? We've got 11 minutes to go, and a good little battle going on here. Garcia, having had that little incident, is now being mugged by Sethouse and Shottles, I think. Oh, sorry, no, we've got the real world drivers in, so it's Best, Trafalgar, and Pinheiro. By the way, Eng held on to the lead and, in fact, extended the advantage of the 22 car over Ayachan Guvin at the head of the field. So it's 0.8 of a second now. So the undercut for Coanda for Josh Rogers didn't work this time, and Eng now leads. So that is pretty crucial mentally for Sebastian Job, who sits 20 points behind Josh Rogers in the championship. He wants to be taking any points he can to potentially win this championship. Philipp Eng is fifth in his championship because he missed last round, so he didn't pick up as many points. So really not in championship contention, as we now see a move for Grimbergus dropping behind teammate Matt Campbell. Campbell up to 11th position now.
Yeah, decent move there into T1. Wasn't fought very hard by fellow teammate. I will just say, looking at the top two between Eng and Iron Changuven, the previous lap times, it's not looking so good for Mr. Eng. It was a 151.4 on the previous lap for Eng. For Iron Changuven, a 150.9. That is half a second difference between our top two. The 92 is closing in and looking for its fourth victory of the VCO ProSim Series.
Yeah, Philipp Eng, second position behind Max Verstappen in our first round of the championship. Then it was a 5th and 11th. It started to go all downhill at the start of our championship. 15th position in round 4, and then he missed round 5. So this is really a comeback for Philipp Eng. Missed out on the decent points Sebastian Job picked up on the round where Philipp was doing real-world racing at Daytona. I mean, why would you do that? Commitments, because he is a works BMW driver, that's why. And I'm talking to myself now. Anybody out there? By the way, if anybody's listening and thinking Ben has gone slightly mad, I've got loads of different types of drugs in me because I've had a root canal treatment in my tooth. Legal drugs, not illegal drugs, but I've got massive painkillers and antibiotics, and I'm sure that's making me slightly bonkers. Right. What's happened here? Car facing the wrong direction. It's Tim Heinemann, also a very strong real-world driver. Tries to go around the outside. That does not work. Puts him into the grass.
Yeah, Danny Morad, I believe it was. Where is the contact? It's not the best. There was definite wheel-to-wheel between the two of them. Who is to be thrown under the bus for that one, though? I don't know. Tim Heinemann's been in sim racing for a long time, was racing for championships when I was still fairly new to sim racing back in 2013, 2014, so he's had his fair share of sim racing. Needless to say, the battle for the podium at the moment between Heinrich and Zug at the moment. Zug, who's currently in that number 7 car, is being under a heavy amount of pressure into the Dunlop hairpin. I think it is going to go the way of Lauren Heinrich and does need to move up the order up into 3rd place. That's good for him. A bit of damage limitation after sitting in 5th place for most of the race in the hands of Graham Carroll. That Red Bull Racing Esports car moving itself forward.
Nice work from Lauren Heinrich. Easy, clean move. I think Marius Zug thought about defending. You could see a little twitch from the Formula 3 car going down into the hairpin, but in the end just thought against it. Thinks instead he'd just sit and follow Heinrich, learn a bit from him. Again, Marius Zug being placed in a position which usually when he qualifies and does the first stint, this car is way down the field. But when Alejandro Sanchez starts the car, it really is at the very top of the time sheets, and it puts Marius Zug, when he takes over for the second stint, in kind of a hefty position. Behind him is now Sage Karam, who's taken over from Matt Backham. Recent winner of the Daytona 24-hour race was Backham, part of the winning squad with Josh Rogers. And then the orange car is not making progress, is it? Max Benecke really could do with Max Verstappen coming back. I don't know if Verstappen's plans are to rejoin the championship in the last 2 rounds. We're getting closer and closer to car launching and testing in the next few weeks. So I imagine that there'll be less and less time for Verstappen to be able to do so. We do miss him though, and it was great to have him in our championship at the very beginning. And with Verstappen's third teammate now, Benecke's third teammate now handing over to Bent Vishkal, obviously nominated by Team Redline, so Redline know what they're doing, but Bent 9.3 seconds off the lead. And if Benecke wants to win this championship, which is less and less likely now, sitting 6th position and 33 points behind. And by the way, let's not also forget, they've got a 10-second penalty to add to this time. Yeah. So they are way down, aren't they? 19 seconds would put them down in 11th spot.
It's not going well. I think. Well, Verstappen's been active in the Discord, in the chat, and there. So,
Oh, yes, he has.
So we
Probably watching.
won't say what he's been saying in that chat, mind, but he's been in there. But for Beneke, I think at times, though, in this championship, he has been a little bit of his own worst enemy. We saw this at Snetton. Even now, the penalty, the 10-second time penalty that's been accrued to that car was when Beneke was behind the wheel. It was for contact on his part, as viewed by the race direction. By the way, another note on that instant that we saw between Heinemann and Morad, there is a 10-second time penalty to Tim Heinemann. So 10 seconds to you. The end of the race, have fun, drop backwards into the pack. Ollie Pakalo and Rudy Van Buren, by the way, are up into 16th place, so they're marching up the order from 40th.
Yeah, good effort, bad qualifying, but now Van Buren's in the car. He's got 6 seconds behind Danny Cross, so a lot of work to do to get himself any further up, but good to see. Well, it'd be nice to see him a bit in the sharper end, but perhaps in the last 2 rounds we'll get. Romain Grosjean, by the way, is 22nd, him and Thomas Petitjean. Again, with a 6-second deficit to Louis Delatraz just ahead, so not much of a battle for him. This is a track that he knows far better than Snetterton, where he'd never been before. Dennis Lind, another star of sim racing, down in 29th position. Not much of a star when it comes to iRacing, to be fair, but he is also struggling. We've seen great things from Mike Epps, but they're only 31st. He's getting old too. And Phil Dennis, 37th spot, so not gone very well. New graphic there from our guys at Race Spot, showing the difference between the last couple of laps. And again, after that big chunk of time taken a few laps ago, it's settled down to a 10th here and a 10th there.
Yeah, it's a really good response from Philip Eng time-wise. Just saying, by the way, when I was saying that it's old, I was directing that at Dennis Lind because it was his 28th birthday a couple of weeks ago. So that's what's old in the sim racing world. Anyway, we'll roll with that. He's been in sim racing for a very long time. It's a bit of a shame to see him a little bit further down. Focusing on this battle a little bit up the order. As well, Heinrich and Carroll. I would have thought that Lauren Heinrich maybe, I had the hope that after passing maybe would somehow try and close up for this gap. But realistically, he needs the number 22, Philip Eng, to slow Ian Changuven down. What's happened to Romain Grosjean? Oh, that is a hit.
Oh.
They had
Such
a great
good result
drive
last
as well.
time out.
Yeah.
And it's all gone from bad to worse. Grosjean really putting a lot of time in the gym right now because he's going off to IndyCar to do the street tracks. IndyCars, there was the hit. What a shame. I love how the suspension repairs itself in iRacing. It's so good. Going off into IndyCar in a couple of weeks' time, actually heading over for the start of that season. He's been racing Formula One cars that have power steering, that are very, very light to the touch. He's going to be jumping into an IndyCar that, number 1, doesn't have power steering. Number 2, he's driving on a street track, which is very, very bumpy. So Grosjean's been making a lot of efforts to bulk himself up on the in the upper body so that he can handle the IndyCar. But looking forward to seeing how he gets on over there in IndyCar and seeing how it just will prove once again, how strong the IndyCar series is with all of their drivers.
It's a massively strong championship and only getting stronger as well. And it is great to see. I mean, I've been an IndyCar fan for ages, so I'm well happy to see that. This is Tim Heinemann under a lot of pressure, is it? Oh, been spun out. Anyway, I think that was Tim Heinemann anyway. Don't know. But either way, great to see that movement in IndyCar. And you're right, those cars are brutal to drive. Absolutely brutal.
Molina under pressure here and touched and spun around. So Elgabay will be more frustrated. Danny Elgabay is one of those very strong voices on the Discord channel of this championship, and he'll be frustrated by that for sure. The other one is, of course, Maximilian Beneke, who has been at it one more. I've definitely frustrated with his penalty, no doubt, and making sure that race control are aware of that a couple of drivers apparently pitted outside of the pit window. So not sure if race control are agreeing or are investigating or just ignoring Max, but he has made various cars, including our third place car, the 26 car of Lauren Heinrich, potentially, according to him, pitted outside of the window. So let's see what happens a bit later on. I hate all this rubbish. I really wish we could just not moan the whole time. But it seems to be a thing in race control.
I think that kind of stuff will probably be investigated post-race, so they can really analyse it and just double-check that it's right. And I'm sure it will be investigated anyway. I'm also not a huge fan of the rubbish, but alas, it's part of competitive racing and what we've got in sim racing. That there is a little bit of drama, and you have to look at the positives of drama. Is that it's something to talk about, isn't it? It's a bit of fun. What is
creates
to talk about,
talking points.
Yeah, it does. Final lap of the race coming up as well.
Grosjean's been nailed. The car should be destroyed. It looks very nice, but he goes for a little spin. I'm sure that car is not working properly, even though visually, graphically, it looked fine. Gone for the classic Nürburgring 24-hour shot of the castle there, just to break up the action. We've only got 15 seconds remaining, so we are potentially on the last lap for our leaders. Just 0.2 of a second between Philippe Eng and Ayachan Guven as they go into turn one. Guven is going to try and leave this one late, isn't he? He knows how to win races. He's 1-4 with his teammate Joshua Rogers. Philippe Eng and Sebastian Job yet to take a victory as a team in our VCO Pro Sim series. In fact, have Red Bull as a team won yet? I don't think they have. Such as being the dominance of Coanda.
Caroline Heinrich, I believe, won.
They did.
Suzuka.
Thank you very much. There you go. Oh, yes, because all the results were changed, weren't they?
Yes.
And therefore, whoever crossed the line, and when we turned our broadcast off and went to sleep, it all got changed after that, which potentially may happen here as well, with the investigations that are happening right now due to the pit window. I've been known a pit window to be so difficult. But half a lap remaining. The place to do it will be into the chicane for Ayachan Guven. He is certainly close enough. And Philippe Eng will know exactly that that's the way to do it. Eng races on this track in DTM year after year for BMW, both on the short and on the long Grand Prix circuit. He's raced on the 24-hour track as well, but of course they use a different chicane to here. Now Ayachan Guven draws up onto the tail, into the braking zone, not quite close enough. Philippe Eng just doesn't really have to fully defend, but is very slow through the corner. Ayachan Guven needs to try and find a way through, but it's covered on the inside line. I do not think that there'll be enough drive, or maybe there will be enough drive. There's contact between the two of them. Oh, I think he would have had enough drive if he managed to not make contact, but as it was, the contact has slowed him down, and it is Philippe Eng who takes the victory with Sebastian Job over Ayachan Guven and Roger. It could have so easily gone the other way if Guven had just timed that a little bit better. In third position is Lauren Heinrich provisionally with Graham Carroll. And then Marius Zug held on for fourth position with Alejandro Sanchez in fifth. Sage Karam in fifth position. Bent Fiskel and Maximilian Benecke finishing in sixth spot, but they do have a time penalty, remember, so they will drop further back. Danny Yukandela seventh, and here is the replay of that final corner. Nearly, Lewis, nearly.
So close. I thought he was just about getting it there, but I must say, Philippe Eng left his car in the perfect position just to sort of hold off in that right spot. Left it in the middle of the road, and Ayachan Guven really couldn't do anything. That was really solid defending from Eng, and a great race between the two of them. Interesting to see it go the way of the 22 this time, and Guven and Rogers denied.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to have a new winner, as we've still got more battles coming across the line. This is the thing about the VCO. There's so many people having so much fun. There's Phoenix McEwen coming across the line. He's finished in 30th position, the virtual driver. And Jimmy Broadbent will be happy with his teammates' performance, no doubt. James Headley was just ahead of him. Dylan Pereira just behind. And the last couple of drivers to take the checkered flag. Then Daniel Morad managing to get home to be able to do it, but unfortunately a fruitless run. Frederick Movich at the tail end of the field. Miguel Molina as well, and Bobby Thompson right at the tail. We'll see Bobby. next Tuesday he'll be racing in my league, which is kind of cool. Nice to have him in the VCO ProSim series for the first time. Well, that was very, very entertaining. It was much better than I thought the Nürburgring GP track would be. I was the first half of the race, as I said, you said the qualifying positions had retained, and I was going to say that that is why Somil was wrong and we were correct. But the second half of the race really performed.
The pro drivers getting in there really did spice it up. It was interesting from start to finish. Maybe not a classic, but certainly one that provided us with our glad midweek entertainment, and hopefully with 2 more rounds on the calendar, we're going to see a nice tight championship fight. It is the focus now, and I'm really looking forward to this run-in.
Provisional results then. Philipp Eng ahead of Ayhan Guven, and then Lauren Heinrich in 3rd position. Marisug held on to 4th. Karam Viskal. Danny Ukadela in his debut in 7th position with Chris Lullum. I expect that pairing to do better and better as we go into the final stages. Nicholas Verone with Van Loosenord 8th. Ralph Hyman, a good recovery up to 9th with Ludding. He has a penalty though, looming. Matt Campbell, then Ellis Sapenen. Timo Glock, best performance from him for sure. Could be a top 10 even. Timo Glock in 12th position. Danny Cross in 13th. Gustav Grimbergus in 14th. Van Buren and Pakela 15th. Stevens and Burkai in 16th. Wiltshire Goethe in 17th. Besh. And then Pinheiro. Louis Delatraz only 20th with Andrea Butcher. They were spun around, I think, very early on in the race, if I remember. Jack Crawford and Marceno dropped to 21st by the end. Nessov and Holtzman not starring at all, 22nd. Alexei Alcaraz. Then Dennis Lynn, 24th. Vitolo Garcia, Mike Epps, Jens Klingman, James Headley, Felix McEwen and Jimmy Broadbent, 29th. Dylan Pereira in 30th with Jurgen Franke. That was the car that was Barrichello's previously. Jan Veniger, then Phil Dennis, Fred Ravish, Tim Heinemann, Miguel Molina, Daniel Morad, Bobby Thompson, Grosjean down in 38th, Lars Frontis 39th, Nick Yellerly really having a horrible run of things down in 40th and retiring with 9 laps to go. Yannick Lapshan retired, so did Mike Veninger with Martin Tomczyk. Dennis Weiss and Bradley Philpott out. Mohamed Ibrahim didn't start. Jobbram Neutrit didn't start. Wagner did not start, and Sophia Flörsch did not start either. Right then, so time to get our winning drivers into our interview room as quickly as possible. But Somil, you must be very happy that the track performed for you.
Exactly. Now, but to be fair, it was not just the track. The kind of battles and the kind of action that they put on, especially in the second half of the race, were really interesting to watch. And you're right, it did stagnate a little bit early on, but all the chaos aside, all the drama aside, what we saw towards the very end, especially that finish, crazy stuff. I was amused, to say the least, and so was the chat.
Yeah, the chat had good responses to it all.
Oh, really? They were all. They didn't really chat a lot during the race because they were so intrigued to know what would happen towards the very end. And as soon as the checkered flag dropped, there was such relief and such euphoria to see a finish like that one. Really crazy stuff towards the end.
Oh yeah, Lewis, it was very, very close. We'll be able to talk hopefully to Philipp Eng in just a second, but it was so nearly Ayhan Guven's.
So close. What a close final corner, and we've seen some close racing between at least those two cars, more so in the hand of their sim drivers. Obviously, being Job and Rogers, but seeing those two going side by side, trying to battle it out and trying to find their way through was enthralling, and it was so nearly the other way. But part of me, and it's not because I'm a Job fan or anything like that, but it's nice to see it that way around. It's nice to see a new winner, and it's nice to see the championship closing up a little bit.
Yeah, it will allow Sebastian Job, who started this day 20 points behind Josh Rogers, close just a little bit. I wonder whether Graham Carroll may drop out of second position, because it looks to me as though Beneke's got a protest in. How do you feel about that? A couple of drivers potentially pitting outside the window. How are they getting this so wrong, Lewis? Second race.
It's I I don't really know how to be like kind about this. I don't think to some people the wording of the this is what I read before when I first joined the ProSim, is that the wording for when the pit window opens isn't clear enough or something like that, and so it allows people to be like, oh well, I'm going to pit here because the wording's not clear enough, and we'll get away with it. Alas, it's just one of those things that there maybe needs to be something about making sure that's as clear as is humanly possible with how much is left in race time and whatever. I don't really know what to do with that, but obviously some people have been pushing it to the very limit, and is it worth it? That's the end of the day. Is it worth it?
I mean, race control very clear with the message that you actually read out on the stream when the pit lane opens, when the pit lane shuts. Could it be a case, Sunil, that these drivers wanting to pit so late, just getting their calculations wrong and meaning that they are just that couple of seconds too late?
You're right. You're actually right, Ben. Situations like this can arrive where they're banking on a certain lap time to happen, or perhaps they just end up overshooting it. And you're constantly thinking on the trot, right? You can't predict incidents like crashes happening in front of you and then calculate your lap time on that basis. So they're thinking on the trot, thinking as they go on. And the chances are, while you're doing that and you're racing at the same time, you might just make those miscalculations sometimes, and that may very well happen. Or, as Lewis mentioned, it could just be a case of misinterpreting the rules, and I'm not sure if that's a really big thing, because I think race control does have a manual word on the chat where they go on and say, yes, this is when the pit window opens, this is when it shuts down. So I think it is going to be mostly a case of miscalculation, or perhaps trying to push the boundaries a little bit, trying to make sure that your pro sim driver spends the most amount of time on the track.
Well, keep across all of our social medias at VCO to find out exactly what happens if race control do add any other time penalties. We already saw Felix Ludding pick one up, and Maximilian Beneke, his team also had a time penalty. Lewis, bit of a disappointment really, Beneke, considering Beneke Verstappen came in, won that first race, have the biggest I rating in the series. Beneke's turning into a kind of a man with potential that's just getting frustrated by not actually exploiting it.
It's one of those weird things that, you know, some like what we do in sim racing and in motorsport in general, it's a momentum-based thing. You carry momentum, you carry that through your driving, your speed, your consistency. And I think for Beneke, he's in a little bit of a dip, a little bit of a rut at the moment, and we're seeing this. I don't want to be too harsh on him. We're seeing this not just in the ProSim series, we're seeing this elsewhere on iRacing, and he's obviously got the speed, he's got the talent, he's got the potential, and I think sometimes at the moment with where he is in his career, he's probably his own biggest enemy. He's still got it, but I'm sure we'll see him come to the fore at some point anyway. I hope so anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Beneke, as you say, still the man with the biggest I rating on iRacing, and that means a huge amount in terms of both the cleanliness of his driving and also just simply the amount of competitions that he participates in. Right, let's get over to our winners then. And here we have Sebastian Job, who needs a haircut more than I do, and Philippe Eng. Sorry, Sebastian. No time for haircuts, is there? You've been doing so many races.
Yeah. It's been a bit hectic recently. I'm kind of just leave it as it is until lockdown's over, I think, and then straight to the barber. No hanging about. But yeah, it's been a bit hectic recently, so not been on the top of my list.
Now, let's talk about qualifying, because you were in charge of qualifying. Open qualifying session looked as though tyres absolutely came to the perfect moment 14 and a half minutes into the session, and you managed to get yourself into the right place for the start of the race.
Yeah, it's the car kind of gets faster each lap generally. That it eventually it kind of plateaus out a bit, but you really want to get that last lap nailed. And I was a bit disappointed with my lap actually. I had time for one more, and then I had a bit of traffic. So I just about improved because of the draft, but I also lost time from the dirty air. So I didn't quite improve enough, at least, but it was still good enough for the front row, and I think being on the front row was key. If I was in third, this would have been a very, very difficult race to win. But luckily, if you're second, it's still possible to get the overtake done.
Yeah, and a great strategy to hand over your teammate Philippe Eng. That was the right moment for the pit stop, Philip, because ultimately you came out with a little bit of a buffer over Ayachan, and then he just couldn't find a way past you.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
You cannot hear me.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Yeah, I already told it to Seb, it has been one of the most intense laps of my entire career. I'm completely done. The stress level was extremely high. We had a lot of pressure, but Seb did an outstanding job in quali, and the overtake on Güven is the pass 3.0. So was a really good move, and I'm just super happy. This is a real, I must say, a dream come true, to be on the top step of the podium against the best sim racers and real world racers on the planet. So heads off, Seb, you did outstanding, and I just had to finish it.
I mean, to be pitched against Ayachan Güven for a full stint, having him hunting you down, he didn't seem to make too many attempts to pass you until that very last corner. That was very intense.
Yeah, unfortunately I pulled like a gap of 1.2 seconds, and then I locked up the rears into the chicane, which cost a bit of time. And then he was in my slipstream, and yeah, he didn't make any mistake. He had super strong pace as well. Yeah, then in the last few corners, I think it was a normal race situation. It was hard but fair. We touched, but I think it's also okay for him. So I can only say thanks to Seb and thanks to VCO for putting up this great show, and I can't wait to be back.
Well, it's great to have you back. Thank you very much for getting back into the virtual world after your little foray in the real world. You know, this is where it's at, Phil. Thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I don't know what I'm hearing, by the way, but I think I'm hearing a baby crying. I don't know whether it certainly wasn't from them. It might be from somewhere else. I don't know. But if you're hearing it, don't worry. No babies were harmed in the making of this program. What else is there to say? We've spoken to our winners. Philippe Eng looking very smart. Sebastian Job going for the surfer look. If that hangs out anymore, it's going to really a big bouffon of hair. And we've had these two gentlemen casting their expert eye across the round 6 of the VCO ProSim Series. I guess it's a final thought, Samuel. We're heading to the sharp end of the championship now.
Oh yeah, we are. It's been such a fun one so far, with so much drama taking place from everywhere in the grid. I mean, we're seeing championship fights going on, we're seeing some drama back with the crashes and everything. And while that's going on, there's some good mid-pack racing action as well. So on the whole, I think we've produced a great deal of good racing action. And when you add the championship element to it towards the very end, as we are getting right now, I think we're in for a good few final rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis, your favourite thing, the championship. Where are you putting your money? Coanda versus Red Bull, as we've seen so often in our race.
I'm going, unfortunately, for some people watching, I am going to go for Ayachan Güven and Josh Rogers. They're very, very strong on pace. And yes, as much as we saw some good stuff coming there from Eng and Job, I think it might be a little bit too much, a little too late. And also, Graham Carroll, Lauren Heinrich, they didn't do it for me this round. They were looking fine, but fine's not good enough when you're battling with drivers of that caliber. So Josh Rogers, Ayachan Güven, I think they're going to go the distance.
You know what it is? Graham Carroll spent too much time on R Factor 2 and Formula E, no doubt. I think is that tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Is he gonna do it tomorrow? Yeah. I think it is, yeah. You know, that's hard work to switch from platform to platform, so we'll let him off. But he needs to make sure he focuses for the final couple of rounds. The next round of the championship, I think we've got a couple of weeks before the next round. May the 5th, if my memory serves. March the 5th, if my memory serves. And then the final round at the end of March. Just 2 rounds left of the VCO ProSim Series. But so much action coming up on VCO, on our platforms, including my chat show every Monday evening, where we'll have guests from around the world chatting about sim racing. But for the moment, a huge thank you to Samuel, to Lewis, to the whole production team over in Munich and Germany. Well, actually, just across the whole of Germany, and to all of our pro and sim drivers that have taken part to make this an entertaining Wednesday evening for your viewing pleasure. Thanks for joining us. See you again.